It must be really hard when all your friends have, like, superpowers. Slayer, werewolf, witches, vampires, and you're like this little nothing. You must feel like Jimmy Olsen.
I was just talking to... Hey, mind your own business.
Ooh, I struck a nerve. The boy that had no cool.
I happen to be an integral part of that group. I happen to have a lot to offer.
Oh, please.
I do.
Integral part of the group? Xander, you're the useless part of the group. You're the Zeppo.
Welcome to Gimmicks, a podcast about the high-concept, experimental, structure-breaking gimmick episodes of TV. From musicals to bottle episodes to putting an unextraordinary supporting character in the spotlight. I'm Derek B. Gale.
And we're just two gays, David.
In an episode full of Freudian slips and Freud psychology.
Oh, no.
Right off the top.
Yeah,
baby.
I was going to say we're two guys wrestling, but not in a gay way, and yet here we are. I'm David Arnold.
And this episode, we were, of course, talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the episode The Zeppo.
If you were not familiar with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, wow, ouch, personally offended. It has been a while. This was shocking to realize. It's been a while since we've covered it on Gimmicks. It was in the first season, one of the first episodes recorded. We have not actually been back to legitimate Sunnydale since then.
Yeah, we've covered Angel, and we've both done Buffy episodes on other podcasts. Like I was on Fear Coded doing Buffy versus Dracula. Right. So it still feels like we've done, and it comes up like constantly on everything we do.
That's what it was, because we talked about it on our Growing the Beard episode. I was like, God, we just talked about Buffy recently.
Yeah.
But it is a supernatural horror television series that was originally conceived of as a film of the same name from 1992. The series ran for 7 seasons from March 1997 to May 2003 across 2 networks, the WB and UPN. The series centers on the titular Buffy Summers, who is a vampire slayer, a chosen warrior against vampires, demons, and the forces of darkness. A continuation series of the original run, which will feature Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy, will premiere this year on Hulu. But
is that actually truly happening this year? Or
yes.
Are they filming the pilot this year? They are really actually doing it this
year. Yep, really actually landing this year. Could confirm that, but could not get a date.
Because I know that has been in contention for a while, but okay, that is for real.
That's what it's Hollywood Reporter. That's my source on that one. But Sarah Michelle Gellar was like, this will come out in 2026. So
cool.
That's what I got.
Okay, good.
So Derek, in the early days of Gimmicks, we didn't necessarily get all of your history with the show. I know a lot of your history with Buffy, but will you share now for the Gimmicks audience, what is your history with Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I basically consider Buffy my favorite TV show of all time. If I have to pick a show, that's going to be the one that I'm going to pick. Unlike, I think, a lot of people my age, it wasn't a show that I watched when it first started. So I wasn't like, a kid, preteen, teenager watching this. I didn't come to it until I was in college.
Yeah.
And I came to it from the perspective of knowing that it was a really important TV show in the history of television, but it was just a blind spot for me. Like I was going and watching it specifically because it was a blind spot. And I think I only didn't watch it originally because we didn't get the WB at the time. And by the time it was on UPN, it's like, why am I jumping into a show in its 6th season? And I do think sometimes if you like I think I do remember maybe my first ever episode of the show was like Beauty and the Beasts from season 3.
Wow.
Which I don't think is a good first episode to see a Buffy.
No.
And so that probably, I don't know that it turned me off of it, but it didn't immediately get me to like, to try to catch reruns or whatever. But I knew how influential it was in TV, and so many of my favorite shows and creators would always reference Buffy the Vampire Slayer as an influence on them. And I don't think I'd ever seen a Joss Whedon thing before either. So it was just like, it feels like an important thing to actually watch just from a television history fan perspective. And then I watched the first episode of it and I'm like, this show fucks. It's one of the best things ever made. It's so incredibly funny. One of the funniest shows ever made, but also one of the most emotionally devastating shows ever made. And just so interesting to watch from a writing perspective. And it's a show that I have revisited so many times. Like I said, I didn't watch it when I was a kid, and yet I probably have watched through this show and seen some episodes more than any other show, just because I can turn it on, blast through a whole season, and then just restart it all over again. It's such an easy show, and just both a comfort watch for me and an intellectual, like studying academic watch for me. Anything that I don't like about it is so interesting to think about and talk about, and analyze and things. And just, I can't understate how much I love this show.
Yeah. Well put, Derek. I think that's, especially the idea that the ending sticks so well that you are ready to go right back to the beginning. Yeah. And I think there are enough shows that I like that I get to the ending and I'm like,
you're satisfied.
I'm done.
You're done.
Yeah. Or I'm even a little tired and I don't want to start again.
I mean, even it's interesting because I do think Buffy, I think there's certain points in season 6 and 7 where you probably do feel a little tired, but yet
not the ending.
The magic, the real magic spell of this show, I guess, is that like you get to the last episode and it's just like, oh, this might be one of the best last episodes of any show I've ever seen, and it just gets me so pumped to just watch it again.
Put it back on. Put on episode 1-1. Like I'm ready to go.
Truly a show where if I'm like, I'm going to watch one random episode that I haven't seen in a long time, I watch that episode and then just keep going from there, basically, inevitably.
Well, and we both, because we knew this episode was coming, I think we both started a rewatch of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And did you make it to the Zeppo?
Yeah, I just finished season 3 last night.
Yeah, and
it's easy to just blast through this show.
It is, except that, you know who's never seen this show is my husband.
Wait, oh, interesting.
I mean, okay, so he's seen it in the way
but watched all the way through. Yeah.
So he's like, I would like to watch this all the way through, and I was like, great, because we're covering it for gimmicks, and wow, we are a little bit slower when we have to watch something together, because I'm like, let's put on the next one. He goes, no, Jeopardy.
Sure,
that's fine, but to me, because I watch these on DVDs, like I never caught this live on air. And so I am constantly used to just rolling over to the next one. I have no pause. Like I want to see what happens next. This was famously one of the things that lived when I had an apartment, when I was single. One of the best things in my life when I was single and lived in this apartment was I had a 5-disc DVD changer. And boy, you could just put almost the entire season in that, sit down on the recliner and just get through it. You didn't have to get up and change discs because you could just push the little button and it switched from disc 1 to disc 2. What an incredible device. I can't believe I let that go.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And I think it's a show that I think it's sometimes hard, I think, almost to weirdly to pitch it to people nowadays who have never seen it before, because there's been so many imitators of it and things that have come afterwards that I think it's really hard to be like, well, it's a show about a vampire slayer who kills vampires. And it's just like, well, I'm familiar with the Vampire Diaries and Twilight and every other fucking thing. Why would I want to watch a show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer? That sounds awful. And I think it's really hard, I think, to explain how well balanced this show is in that it has melodrama, it has soapy teen stuff, it has gothic romance, but it is so funny and self-aware and so clever about how it handles narrative devices and how it approaches the idea of a narrative and how much like philosophical underpinnings it has throughout it as well, and how interested it is in metaphor and like trying to structure. Like I love thinking about structure in television, and this is like one of the most structured TV shows ever made, to the point when you can pinpoint like the episode 7 always does this, and the episodes between 13 and 15 always do this, and like the big bads are always established around this point, and like it's such a well-structured TV show in a way that I don't think any show has ever actually been able to truly imitate, no matter how many things have been influenced by it.
Yeah, and to me this rises to the top of like what was a good WB show of that era.
Sure.
Because I think you needed, like, okay, in a way that this has some shared DNA with Dawson's Creek, another one of my little beloveds. But there's no vampires, sadly. One biggest thing missing in Dawson's Creek, vampires. But it had that fast, witty dialogue. So I was looking for something that was willing to be a little smarter than I was to push me in that direction. Mm-hmm. In that way, it's kind of like The Simpsons, right? Like, I don't always need to understand what the references are. Famously, I wasn't entirely sure what the Zeppo even was.
Yeah, sure.
Which is the namesake of this episode. But it seemed to be important, and Cordelia was saying it, so I was sat. And I kind of miss that era of the WB very specifically, being willing to say, like, yeah, teenagers watch this, but teenagers are curious. So, like, we don't have to write down to them. We can write up to them.
Yeah, I love that.
And not just like season structure, but like episode structure. These are just, they are really well written. Even clunkers are really well written episodes where the A, B, and C meet together at the end. Oh, I'm so happy.
That's the thing, is like, the more I revisit, but like a lot of shows, like the more you watch them, right, you sort of see more and more of the flaws or the kinks in them and things like that you maybe didn't notice. With Buffy, you know, again, there are mistakes that the show makes, and there are definitely flaws, and there are ways in which it doesn't age well, obviously. But every time I revisit, I discover something new that I like, that I didn't think about before in structure. And like you were saying, yeah, like watching even the episodes that are like objectively the worst episodes of the show that no one likes is still like a better structured episode of television than the majority of episodes of TV that have ever been made. Yeah. And like watching it through this time, it's just like, there truly is not an episode that is not like important in some way or relevant in some way. Even the most standalone episodes, if it doesn't introduce a new recurring character or introduce a concept that gets brought up again, or introduce like a plot device that gets brought up again, or like we used a weapon to defeat a villain and then out of nowhere 2 seasons later we decide to bring that up again, if nothing else, it at least gets referenced in the future. That Praying Mantis episode, there maybe isn't really actually anything in there narratively plot wise that comes up again, but it gets referenced constantly as just a joke, and like in a way becomes a weird like statement of a character trait for Xander, that he constantly dates like monster and demon women. Like, there's no episode of this show that doesn't provide something important to the overall narrative. And again, for a show that I think also kind of perfected this idea of like a myth arc, half season arc, where you have a mixture of arc episodes and standalone episodes that so much of TV has really imitated because of how well this show did that. Even still, no show does it as well as this one does, where there truly is not an episode that you can just pull out of continuity.
Yeah. Well, and not for nothing, but the Zeppo falls in like an Oops All Bangers stretch of season 3.
Season 3 is a really strong season. There's really not a bad episode in season 3.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, really start to finish. And I mean, this one, which I think is a very, very good episode. I know that there's some disagreement in the world, but like, I think this is very good. And I think it is sandwiched between 2 of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. The one before this is Helpless, and the one after it is Bad Girls.
Bad Girls. Whoa.
Yeah, well, I think it's a whole stretch of episodes that are like dealing with gender in different ways.
Yeah.
Like it's like an episode about sort of masculinity sandwiched between in episodes about like women's roles and how the patriarchy treats them and things like that. So yeah, it's so fucking interesting. It's such a cool show. It's such a good show. It's also such a frustrating show, like because of the people that work on it. But I think one of the things I was excited to talk about with this episode, not because it'll be an easy conversation, but like it is a really fascinating thing to look at this show and see an episode that I agree with you, David. I think this is a really good one. This is one of my favorite episodes of the show. Maybe one of my favorite episodes of TV ever because of how well it does what it's doing with its narrative device. But it's centered on a character that was like a self-insert character of a creator that very, gradually unveiled himself to be just a horrible, toxic, abusing monster, played by an actor who is not a wonderful person himself, and a character that maybe is like the worst aged character in the show that represents maybe some of the worst toxically masculine impulses of the late 90s, early 2000s distilled here. And yet
it all kind of works. And that's
it all works in this episode.
Yeah, this was, I
It's
think
bizarre. It's so bizarre and fascinating.
This was a wish list one for me. I really wanted to talk the Zeppo. I think Xander receives well-earned criticism as a written character. I think especially the author insert, which I imagine we will be spending some time on.
We're going to have to spend some time on that. Yeah. But he gets like genuinely like the best one-off focus episodes of this show. Like genuinely.
Yeah.
Like season 2, Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered is also one of my favorite episodes of all time. And it is the show's first true comedy episode.
Oh, it's hilarious.
It's another one that I think is controversial because it's focused on Xander and sort of what it deals with. But I think that a lot of criticisms of the episode are actually very wrongheaded. And sort of like, look at what the episode is trying to tell you. And then after this, like the replacement in season 5, all of these episodes, when you count the Zeppo, kind of follow this pattern of looking at this flawed character, exposing kind of his biggest flaws and kind of highlighting them, flaws that are, I think in every case, like related to the idea of masculinity and how toxic masculinity completely destroys like teenage boys and young men. And then having like a wish fulfillment type of scenario for him with that toxically masculine scenario of like, okay, if you get what you wanted in terms of masculinity, here's what it looks like. Having it be a comedic romp and then him learning a lesson about himself and learning to be less of a toxically masculine shithead.
Well, that's always, he does learn and does grow as a character. And that's the only thing you can hope for any character to do, but let alone one that is so burdened with the role that Xander has to play. And so I think here's the deal. No television show has been written about as much as Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So a set of all things contains the best thing. A set of all things also contains some of the worst things. And so I think critiques and criticisms sometimes get it wrong. And I feel very confident in the way that I view the character of Xander. And I think that my defense of this character is well grounded in my experience with the media.
This is a show that is very much, I think, excels because it allows its characters to be realistically flawed in consistent ways that are clear to the audience. You are watching this show knowing that, like, Buffy kind of has this problem, and Willow kind of has this problem, and Xander kind of has this problem. And the joy of the show is watching them, learn about those issues, get over them, backslide a bit, relearn them, have to figure them out, and in some cases never actually get over them and just have to live with those flaws, you know? And I think for a show that, we'll have to talk about Joss Whedon and everything, but the intention of this show, ostensibly, and from a lot of people working on it, was for it to be a feminist show, at least in how feminism was thought of and presented and talked about in, the late 90s, right? So some of that stuff maybe doesn't age well now, but that's what they were attempting to do at the time. And I do think you can't have conversations about feminism, about the patriarchy, without having a male character like Xander, who is meant to sort of both represent what it is to be a young man in the 90s, living in the patriarchy, but also a character who is surrounded by these like strong women who are dealing with their own stuff, and how that's going to like show him at his best and at his worst at the same time.
And here's the thing, like, all men are a little bit Xander, and we will never not be. It's just part of how we exist in this society. And to sort of say, well, I totally schluck that off, that's not me at all, I think leads you down a very dark path of actually reinforcing toxic masculinity. And it is instead actually the lesson that Xander learns in this episode to sort of like sit and think and not just jump and respond. And that is what we're left with. And that is actually, I think, the brilliance of the Zeppo.
Yeah, it's a brilliant commentary and like takedown of an observation of like masculinity as a concept, like good masculinity and bad masculinity. Yes.
And anytime something comedic is happening in my life, the background music that started in Bewitched, Bewildered, and Bothered and continues here, this is my go-to something zany is happening music.
Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered.
Thank you. It was coming out wrong as I was saying it. I was like, Bothered's not last, whatever.
Let's talk about the man of the hour here.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Keep that whole pause in, Derek.
Here's the thing. Like you said, David, Buffy is one of the most written about shows of all time. I would love to think that we can present some new thoughts here, but I think, a lot of the stuff that we're going to say is you've probably heard before. That includes Joss Whedon himself as a person. I don't think you can be a media consumer these days that has any like awareness of creators and interest in media without knowing at least the cliff notes of the whole saga with Joss Whedon and the kind of fall of Joss Whedon and the general arc of being someone who was touted as like this great example of a feminist man making feminist literature despite being a man, then being unveiled to actually have been abusive to women in his work environments throughout the entire history of his career, essentially.
Yeah. It's not obviously we talked about Joss Whedon when we talked about Hush. We've talked about Joss Whedon
and Angel,
and when we talked about Angel. But there's another name that's already come up on our podcast, and so I just want to start by saying Joss Whedon is a third-generation television writer. His father, Tom Whedon, was a screenwriter for Alice and the Golden Girls, and his grandfather, John Whedon, wrote for Andy Griffith, Leave It to Beaver, That Girl, The Dick Van Dyke Show, and as you may recall, the episode we covered of The Donna Reed Show. Heck yeah. Which I think there were like 20 exclamation points when I typed out those notes because I was just like,
so funny.
How is this possible? He is the middle child of 4 brothers. And I think that's particularly interesting as we talk about what it means to be the Zeppo. He is the youngest brother of his 3, who are all full brothers. And then the 2 younger brothers are half brothers when his parents remarried. He graduated from Wesleyan University in 1987 and immediately conceived of what would be the first incarnation of Buffy Summers, which was Rhonda, the immortal waitress. And a lot of if you read Whedon's interviews about this, a lot of the DNA's there, even if the character seems pretty far apart at the moment.
Sure.
He's an early staff writer on Roseanne and Parenthood, while being a script doctor for like some of the biggest things that are happening in the 90s, Twister, Speed, Waterworld. I don't know what doctoring could have been done to fix that, but you tried. And then he releases Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the film. He writes for Alien Resurrection, Titan AE, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, and he is pretty strongly and publicly like, everything I wrote is terrible once it gets made. The public of it is the thing that I think surprised me the most. Is pretty much as soon as any of these films come out, he was like, my writing was better than what got made.
I mean, yeah. And it's always, I think it's one of the things like in retrospect, when you realize that he is just a real control freak and gets on a power trip really easily, it kind of makes it clear. I'll never not find it funny that it was like decades after Buffy the Vampire Slayer the movie was made, Donald Sutherland still lives rent-free in this man's head. He'll still even the most recent interviews you'll read of him, he's still bringing up how like Donald Sutherland had no respect for my writing and he came in and just changed all the lines and ad-libbed, and I'm like, I guarantee you Donald Sutherland has not thought about Joss Whedon once in like 20 years.
No. And it's not like the film did that well that even Sutherland was like looking at his car and being like, Buffy paid for that. Like there's really
he probably doesn't remember that he
truly.
Or I guess he died a couple years ago, didn't he? I guess he didn't remember that he was even in the movie, honestly, at that point.
No, and even up in heaven or hell, wherever Donald Sutherland ended up, he's probably not thinking about Buffy Summers. Okay, so from here, now we get into the television series. This is when Whedon creates Buffy the Vampire Slayer in 1997. In 99, as we covered on our Angel episode, that's where Angel spins off, and he is the creator for that series as well.
Yes.
Whedon's going to stick around in television for a little while. He creates the short-lived the short-lived series Firefly and Dollhouse, both for television. Firefly gets a follow-up film, Serenity. People really like that. And during the writer's strike, he creates Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
I mean, I watched all this stuff. I think once you're on the Whedon train, for a lot of people, you kind of start just consuming everything he makes, at the time. That's how it kind of was.
Well, and that's why I feel like there was a lot of deification almost of Whedon as a creator. And I think that's scary, whatever.
Well, yes.
Yeah. I mean,
that is a mistake that fandom made of doing that with Whedon and making him kind of this godly figure, because I'm sure that only amped up. And the thing is, like, this isn't me trying to be like I was special and knew all along, because I didn't. But there was never anything that hit with me like Buffy did.
Sure.
All this stuff I feel like I was watching out of sort of obligation, because
Yeah.
I wanted to support this creator of what became my favorite show. And I liked a lot of these things. I really liked the Serenity movie, but like Firefly never did much for me. I in retrospect, I just straight up didn't like Dollhouse. I was like just trying really hard to like it while I was watching it, but I just don't think I liked that show. Dr. Orbital's sing-along blog, fun, but feel like not really totally my vibe, stuff like that. And it's just like in retrospect, you can kind of look back and be like, I think I was like forcing myself to like all of the stuff he was making because of that sort of deification of him, where it was like kind of part of a brand to be like, I'm not a Buffy fan, I'm a Whedon fan.
Yeah.
And that, like you were saying, is a lot dangerous, I think.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because it actually led to something weird that came up that I knew about because I had watched Glee. But there is an episode of Glee that is directed by Joss Whedon. And something
that happened.
Something about Whedon being the director of this is how Fox got Neil Patrick Harris on loan from CBS out of a promise that it would be an episode directed by Joss Whedon.
Oh, wow.
It is so messy, and it's Ryan Murphy is right in the thick of all this, and so the mess is like
a Ryan Murphy thing is messy. Oh wow, fascinating.
Yeah,
so surprising.
I was surprised that he didn't like pick up Neil Patrick Harris at a gym or something. But anyway, that all happens, and it is actually a pretty good episode of Glee. I hate to admit it, but like Neil Patrick Harris can sing. I don't know if you knew this, but he's really good.
He's good at that stuff.
Then Whedon gets tapped to direct Avengers on through Avengers Age of Ultron, and he is a script consultant in that time. He's done a lot of stuff in comics around now that just flew by me as I was reading the titles, and I was like, great, he worked in comics.
He has done pretty significant, like important runs
in
like X-Men and things like that. And the Buffy comics were big for a while too. So
I think it's fun to think about the film Avengers when you are thinking about the idea of the Marx Brothers being a huge influence on Joss Whedon, because the Avengers are sort of the Marx Brothers.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot, like the Avengers is probably the other thing other than like Buffy and Angel. That's a Whedon thing that I really, really genuinely love a lot. And I do think that there is a lot of Whedon's DNA in Avengers. All the argument scenes that they have in Avengers are just the argument scenes that they have in Buffy.
Right,
When things really blow up and the tension's really high at like some of the best parts of the run of Buffy, like when they're arguing in the library about whether or not to kill Angel, that's just basically what you're seeing in the first Avengers movie, because he writes that stuff really well,
Yeah. Film critic Jill Thomas encouraged, and we did this as a household, to watch the Avengers and imagine that Captain America is Xander, and wow, it works in a way that I'm not prepared to tell you.
Oh, that's fascinating. See, because that's just so funny, because I would have, like, personality wise, I would have put him with Tony Stark, because they're sort of like the wisecracker guys.
Right.
But in terms of where the character slots into the narrative, like structurally and archetypally, I guess.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's fascinating.
He's the straight man, and Tony is Groucho. He's the grumpy one who's sarcastic. Like, it's just...
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Well done, Jill. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. That was a fun little experience. Okay, I know very little about what I'm about to say, but he is brought on to work post-production for Justice League, and I guess changes the movie entirely, which is why we got people very excited about a Snyder Cut. I could not be asked about any of this.
Yeah. I mean, this is, I think, where a lot of his star started to fall, I think, was this whole debacle, because it's sort of like he makes this one Avengers movie that is... everyone loves it, like works like gangbusters. I think it's still like, even MCU haters are like,
it's a good movie.
That is a good movie though. Like,
it's a good movie.
And people, but then Age of Ultron, people aren't a huge fan of that movie generally. And it's sort of like, what's going on here? And then he, leaves Marvel, and it's sort of like, is there some weird, like, was Whedon maybe not the all-star that we thought he was? And then going straight from Marvel to DC, going from Avengers to Justice League, basically the two competing comic companies, like, it's like, this feels like really weird, and like, it feels like, I don't know, it just feels more like corporate bullshit than creative bullshit. And then nobody likes that Justice League movie. So I think that's when it's sort of like, is Joss Whedon like maybe a little bit like of a hack now? Like maybe kind of just a corporate sellout kind of thing. I don't know. And then it only gets worse from
That's
there.
right. And it's already happening. And he does describe this part of his life as like what was the thing I read? Everyone loves me, but no one will hire me. And that's
Sounds like you're fucking horrible to work
that's
with,
what I'm
for one.
saying. Like, my babe, look in a mirror.
Yeah, I do think I get the sense that like if you were to plot Whedon's arc like a Buffy character, you're gonna see him going on major downsides, like starting off with like just like a sort of like dude who's probably struggling with self-confidence and like, but like, you know, making new friends and sort of finding success, and then like going darker and darker and darker on this power trip, like Willow being addicted to drugs or whatever.
Right.
Like just completely loses himself and loses any sense of self-awareness that I think in the early days, what makes Buffy so good is that it's from a creator who I do think is aware of his own, very self-aware and aware of his own flaws, and puts those flaws into the script because he's making really like characters based on really well observed flaws and issues that he is dealing with.
Yeah. So there's stuff brewing all over the place about Whedon. It's sort of, there's some open secrets, there's some open talked about things. But in 2018, HBO announces that Whedon will work on a series called The Nevers. I'd never heard of this, by the way.
I remember hearing about it because it was the Whedon thing.
Yeah,
that
it gets 5 episodes into filming and then shuts down because of the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, that is true for a lot of things. When it comes back, Whedon is not there anymore, and he is gone from any conversation about like, this is a Joss Whedon show. He's still listed as creator, like he still gets his due, but it's no longer playing on that. And that is because of everything that's going down with the controversy section of my man's Wikipedia page.
Oof.
Yeah. So again, open secret. Charisma Carpenter had been talking about this for a long time, like from her termination of Angel, but it was not maybe as big until I guess Ray Fisher was the one on the cast of Justice League who really brought this to a head and said, this is unacceptable behavior. And should be dealt with.
And Ray Fisher, you know, was really also like it was like racism that was coming from him too. And I think for a lot of people, when you look back on Whedon's stuff, like that's kind of a real, it's not that his shows are like outright racist, but they're always like very few people of color on like any of his shows. And usually when there is, they're often not treated particularly well.
The depiction is
very quickly.
The depiction has like a flavor to it, right? It has
right.
And
it's like a thing where I think people had noticed that and been talking about it, but it's more like, oh, you know, this is a problem that I hope my favorite creator gets over. When in the reality is sort of like, I think he's just been racist the whole time, and like, you know, and it's just probably gotten worse and worse.
Yeah. And okay, so this isn't the first time we talked about it, because this is what we talked about when we talked about, you know, Rachel Berry's controversy. But like, this is coming to a head in July of 2020. The country was having a very open dialogue about racism in America. And that's when this all sort of came to head. I guess everyone who worked on Justice League was sort of with Fisher on this one, to the point that I was even sort of rooting for Gal Gadot when I was reading these like interviews, and what a miracle of Earth to make that happen.
Yeah, but I mean, if I have to pick someone who's like a bigger villain, I think it might be Whedon. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think what really got me is that Gal Gadot was like, "Oh no, all this happened," and he was threatening me. And then Whedon's response was, "No, you just don't understand English." And I was like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah, that doesn't make you look good, buddy.
Gal Gadot,
not a great response there, huh?
Gal Gadot can eat it, but like, she does know English, my man.
Yeah. Right.
Ooh. Anyway, this is where then Charisma Carpenter's stuff starts getting picked up in a broader way, gets talked about in a broader way, and this is where we get commentary from pretty much everyone else on the Buffy cast. I will say for both Nick Brendon and James Marsters, they're a little bit more like both sides, and all of the women are like, no charisma.
Yeah. I think like James Marsters, I think he's being very diplomatic about it.
That's what it is.
He has in the past been very, very, he tends to be very outspoken and has called Joss out on stuff before in the way that he's written things. And like, I do think James Marsters is an ally.
Oh, I agree.
But I do also think that he tends to lean a little bit too much on the diplomatic end than he needs to, which is not a great look. But I don't think that there's been any schism between him and Chris Carpenter. Like they still interact and work together. So, you know, I think a lot of people, like I think people had like wondered like, what does David Boreanaz think about this, because he worked with Charisma on Angel, and I think a lot of that was like he wasn't being very public about it, but apparently like in private they had like commiserated and everything. So like the general vibe has been that the whole cast, even if they're not super outspoken about it, pretty much the whole cast outside of Nick Brendon are all kind of in the same zone and supporting each other about this has kind of been the vibe. And Nick Brendon, I think, is his own story, because I think that ties have been severed with him from the cast had already happened. That had already happened. So you know.
Yeah,
get into that.
It's
very complicated.
It's stuff. A little bit old ground of what we've covered. This is another version of Dustin Diamond. Like, you don't have to be friends with people you worked with forever.
Yeah, sure.
But you did all share something that is pretty unique, and so something equally unique has to break that bond. And we'll talk about Nicholas Brendon when we get there.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that. I do think that all of this said, we talked about this on the Angel episode. The thing that makes Buffy so complicated, Buffy and Angel both so complicated, I think, with all of this, is that like there's a lot of cases where like your J.K. Rowling's, where it's just like you wrote these books, you turn out to be shitty, I'm not engaging with your books anymore.
Done.
Cool, easy.
Bye.
The complicated thing that's always weird with Buffy is that like the people that Whedon specifically abused, like Charisma Carpenter, you know, and Amber Benson and Michelle Trachtenberg, like are still like, this sucked, but I'm also proud of this work in my character and still want to do stuff. Like Charisma Carpenter plays Cordelia in every supplemental thing she can do. She's hosting a Buffy rewatch podcast right now. Like they still want you to engage with their work, which makes it so it does make it a little bit weird, where it's just like, it's like, I hate that I'm like engaging with this work created by this monster, but the literal people that he abused are telling me like, don't stop enjoying this though. Like, I love it too. It's really good. Unfortunately, terrible people can be really talented and create good art, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I do think it is good art. I think that one of the things that I do worry about in some of the more recent reviews of things is being like, no, Buffy was always bad. And when you look at what the creator's done, you can tell that it was always bad. And I just don't think that's true.
I think you can look at things and I never like the idea of writing it off completely, because it's like, if it was always bad, then I'm sorry, it wouldn't have been as influential on all the things that you don't think are bad. But also, like, I think the more valuable conversation is like, what can you find that you maybe were ignoring or had blinders on about now that you know this about Whedon?
Right.
And I do think when you go through this show, one of the things that is very apparent is that like for a show that was ostensibly very feminist, there's a shit ton of slut shaming in this show.
Yes.
It's bananas how much slut shame, like in your face slut shaming, and like lots towards Charisma Carpenter, who, you know, actually suffered abuse backstage too. So it's like that kind of stuff becomes very apparent, right? I think that is way more valuable, because you can very much pick out like, okay, if you want like proof of why you shouldn't be a bad person when you're making art, here's how your art is like categorically worse because of your shitty views.
Well, and it ends up being in and of itself a feminist reading, because it is sort of this meta contextualization of like, what does it mean to call yourself a feminist? And then what does it mean to walk the walk? And what are examples of not quite getting there? And I think Buffy has a lot of those.
Yeah. Which again makes the show much more interesting to revisit and talk about.
And it also has magic as drugs. Like, that's the thing. That's why there's so much written about the show, is there's a lot of metaphor that's really easy to read, and there's a lot of metaphor that's complicated to read. And that's fun for everyone.
Yeah. And a lot of writers who weren't Whedon who are working on this show that are also very, 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 very talented. And we're making this show happen too. So.
But we are here today to talk about Season 3, Episode 13, The Zeppo.
When everything seems lost,
The boy that had no cool.
a new image
Girls need a lift?
What is this?
I'm car guy.
brings new opportunities,
Xander, one of these days you're gonna get yourself hurt.
dangerous opportunities,
Are you scared? Would that make you happy?
and all new Buffy the Vampire Slayer on the WB's new Tuesday.
This episode originally aired on January 26, 1999. The synopsis per IMDb is: Xander experiences an adventure of his own when he encounters a group of reanimated corpses out to construct a bomb. Meanwhile, Buffy and her friends battle the forces of evil when the Hellmouth reopens.
I love that the synopsis per IMDb got the correct order of A story, B story, because that's the fun we're having today. Meanwhile, the forces of evil. Great. Excellent. Yeah. This one is written by Dan Weber. He started as a writer-editor for The Onion. Love to see it. His first job on TV was as a writer on Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Also adore that. And then he joins as a staff writer for Buffy on season 3. That is the only season that he is the staff writer for. But he is responsible for writing this episode and the season 3 episode, Lover's Walk.
Talk about coming in, throwing out your bomb, making the biggest fucking bangers, and then peacing out. Like, geez, like, possibly like the 2 best episodes of this whole season are both from him. Like, yeah, goddamn, dude.
Really just incredible. Then he goes to animation. He writes on Daria, Futurama, American Dad, including he writes the American Dad After School special, which could be featured here on Gimmicks, which is kind of fun.
Cool. I haven't seen that one.
And then he goes on to Beyond the Simpsons, another one that we could cover, the Thanksgiving of Horror episode, which was also Rusty Taylor's last.
Okay.
And then he since then has been a co-executive producer on The Simpsons from season 27 to today.
It is interesting seeing him pivot to comedy because, I mean, Buffy is a really, really funny show.
Yeah.
Like, again, like I said at the top, like the thing that makes this show distinct from any other like supernatural horror like TV show, that's been inspired by it is that like, it's really a dramedy. Like it's a comedy much of the time.
Yeah.
And like this episode is one of the funniest episodes of the show. Lover's Walk is like rips your heart out, devastating. It's also really funny. Really funny.
Really funny.
Yeah. So, I think it does make sense for him to pivot to comedy, but I would have loved to see what he could have done, especially in like season 4 of Buffy is such a comedy heavy season. It would have been really interesting to see what he could have contributed to it and maybe even like improved that season a bit.
Yeah. Well, and I think I am not super familiar with all of the things that he's written for, but looking through some of the episodes that he is the penned writer for that are animated do seem to be a little bit more of, I guess what I would call like a Selman, sort of like heartstring tugging episodes, which I think that American Dad episode, which deals with like disordered eating, actually is a little bit more on the pathos side than maybe other Seth MacFarlane properties.
Sure.
This one is directed by James Whitmore Jr. He is the son of James Whitmore Sr., I guess, who is a famous Broadway and film actor. Notably, he was the librarian in Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, whoa, interesting.
Yeah, so this is his son, and his son is a director. He is such a director, Derek, that I looked at his credits and I said, there is no thank you. I will do the ones that are relevant for this. This man has been on too many series. It's everything we've loved. So it was like the whole Gimmicks catalog he's done an episode of. But that's his deal. One episode, and then he moves on to the next thing. One episode, then he moves on to the next thing. Buffy, he's here for 5. And it's almost the shining stars of the world. It's so close to being
some
perfect,
of them.
Derek.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Season 2's I Only Have Eyes for You. Season
That's the one that is the one that is like A+ and a really well directed.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
The rest of these I think are debatable depending on your opinions.
That's fair. But I think the direction I liked in Dead Man's Party because we're doing a lot of things with cameras. He directs Gingerbread, which I remember being well directed, but I haven't gotten back to it yet. This episode, and then he directs Beauty and the Beasts,
which is also a complicated one. So he's
clearly
so he's
a good director. He's a good director. So again, he's bouncing all over the place, and then he finds a home, and that home is NCIS. So
yeah, I feel like you're wasting your talents there, buddy.
Well, one would think,
like,
but
no offense, but it shouldn't be that hard of a show to direct. I feel like.
But I think maybe he's gotten to the point with his career, which is long, by the way, and he said, cool, I could direct a procedural and put somebody in the bay.
That's fair.
We may cover him again because he's also on probably one of the only gimmicky episodes of Dawson's Creek I could think of, which is a Blair Witch ripoff called Escape from Witch Island.
I didn't know that was a thing that happened. We absolutely have to do that. That sounds exciting. I'm so into that.
Oh, it's terrible.
I can't wait. Even better.
I mean, he did a good job because I think the brief was probably like, make this look like Blair Witch. And he was like, wow, okay.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. Oh my gosh. So the people who are in this one, obviously Buffy has a robust cast of a lot of recognizable people that you know, but the fun thing about this episode is that like the majority of the main cast are relegated to subplots. So we will certainly talk about Sarah Michelle Gellar and things like that, and people like that. But they're really not the stars of the show of this episode. The actual star of this episode, because it's focusing on him, is Nicholas Brendon as Xander Harris. So Buffy was his big break. He is all but one episode of Buffy. He's not in one season 7 episode, but he is in every other episode of the show. Technically, he was in an episode of Dave's World beforehand, but like really Buffy was the first thing he actually had really done. He was the pastry chef on the short-lived Kitchen Confidential, which was the show that Bradley Cooper went to right after Alias. I never watched that show, but I vaguely remember it happening because of how many people I knew that were on it.
We watched that live on television, and
Really?
we're maybe one of 10 people in America devastated that it got canceled.
How, like, was it good? Like,
I mean, yes. I thought it was very, very good because it's Anthony Bourdain's life story with Bradley Cooper as Anthony Bourdain.
yeah, but it's so funny because that's like that point in time. Like, if that was happening now, slam dunk. But it was like
slam dunk.
You know, that middle period where Bradley Cooper was not the sexiest man alive, and not everyone's like go-to guy. Yeah,
right. He was
funny.
He was Sydney's ugly best friend. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but Brendon went on to have a run on Criminal Minds for about 21 episodes. But he's one of the more, I think, tragic stories out of Buffy, which, like, the majority of the cast of Buffy all seem to be pretty, like, great, smart, intelligent, talented people, you know. Nicholas Brendon, I think, was a very troubled guy. I think he's talked about having, you know, a childhood of abuse and things like that, but even before he worked on Buffy. So he had a hard life, and then after Buffy had a lot of like public incidents and arrests, a lot of it related to violence. I think violence against women specifically. He had substance abuse issues. There's been multiple times when it's like, oh, Nicholas Brendon comes out, it looks like he's clean now and doing fine, and then another thing comes up. So he's been pretty inactive recently. My understanding, like, obviously nobody's gonna like want to comfortably talk openly about this, but I think the understanding is that, like, he's more or less like been kind of shunned by the cast. Like when they did the 20th anniversary photo shoot reunion, I think it did like come out that like him and Emma Caulfield were together. He was not allowed to be with the rest of the cast. Like she was the only cast member that I think agreed to like be in the same room as him. And if you watch all the interviews and stuff, it's always the two of them together. You never see him in a group shot, and the big group shot he's like photoshopped into. Yeah. So you know, I don't know what actually has gone down, but it sounds like people are not comfortable having him around, which is really unfortunate that that's how things have gone down.
Yeah, so there's some underlying stuff that's obviously going on for Brendon, but I will also say that his first few arrests are aligned with appearances at fan conventions, and it's hard not...
I didn't realize that was like the first...
Yeah, it's hard not to think about somebody who's struggling with their self-worth and value, leaving a high-energy thing like a fan con, turning maybe to substances, having unresolved rage issues, directing that. Brendon has spoke openly about his mentorship with Joss Whedon. And so I worry that there's a little bit of Joe Rogan, Andy Dick going on here.
Oh God.
Like,
oh wow.
Like if only you could have had a better mentor, maybe the world would be a different place. He is completely sort of separate from this, but exacerbated by his criminal history, is suffering from a debilitating paralysis issue in his lower spine. And that was exacerbated during one of his arrests when he was not given stupendous medical treatment. I think he was given fine medical treatment, but like the county jail is not the place for medical treatment. And that exacerbated, and he is left with some like long-term paralysis to this day. Yeah.
It's like I said, it seems like it's more of a tragic story for him. Like I don't.
Yeah, but he has choked multiple women. Like this
right.
It is beyond the pale. Like I want to be really clear.
Yeah, it's not like, right. It's more like the reason it's tragic is that it's like that probably some of his issues could have been preventable.
Agree.
He's at the point now where it's like probably beyond redemption. I think many people would argue. No one is clamoring to see him in the Buffy reboot, spinoff, whatever you call it, you know. So it's really unfortunate, and it again makes the Xander conversation that much harder because it's already a character that I think a lot of people rightfully don't like, that in a lot of ways doesn't age very well. But I think it often makes people write that character off even more when it's just like there's more interesting things to say. And unfortunately, Nick Brendon was really good in the role. He's like really good.
And I'll say he's very
it's a real
good.
Bummer.
He's very good in Kitchen Confidential. Because he's not Xander. He's actually sort of like a good pastry chef. And
I really wish I could have seen what his career could have been in an alternate timeline where he figured his stuff out and didn't do this, because I really do think he was a talented guy and just dealt a bad hand and made really, really monstrous decisions and
really
can't come back from that now. No. And that really sucks.
No. And I don't expect that we'll see him acting again with his health issues. I think, I don't want to be macabre, but I think the next story we'll hear about Nicholas Brendon is his passing.
Yeah. Oh, God. Dark stuff, man.
Dark stuff. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's move on to some people who have better after acting experiences. So the first one I want to talk about is Shannon Rowe, who plays Jack O'Toole, who's like the antagonist of this episode. He's Xander's big bad for this episode. His first appearance on television was on My So-Called Life. I looked up the episode. I know that he's in it because it is listed. Could not pick him out of the group. It was just a teen who talked. So from there, though, he goes into films, and he is like a stoner surfer. If you need a stoner surfer, this is who you hire. He is a major character in Biodome. He's Roach, if you are a Biodome fan. He's in Boogie Nights. He is one of the bullies in Can't Hardly Wait. Incredible. Okay. And he is, of course, got some time on The X-Files, Charmed, Deadwood, and among many other television when he comes into it. He's on tons of other stuff after this as well. Very similar character acting. But in 2015, he appeared in the TNT crime drama Murder in the First for a very unremarkable role. And then he just stopped acting. He, per his interview, met with his financial planner who said, "You don't need to do this anymore." And he said, "Bye acting."
Good for him. All right.
I just think there's so many people that we talk about on this podcast who are like, my art and my craft is my life and I'm going to die doing it. And I kind of love Roe being like, nope, I now have the money in the bank to open a lifestyle boutique with my wife called In the Field in Ojai, California.
Okay.
And that's what he does full time. He also is a board member on Greenpeace and the Surfrider Foundation, which protects national parks in California, or state parks in California.
Cute. Look, I guess you know what? He got eaten by a Seth Green werewolf. What else do you need in
what
life
else do
at
you
that
need?
point?
Like retire now.
Yeah.
And then again, there are two zombies who aren't really identified, so I can't cover them, but we do have a named character with Bob, and this is Michael Krudlitz. You probably best know him as Abraham on The Walking Dead or Bull from Band of Brothers, but
it's so funny that he's in this as just this like supporting, like funny, comical zombie character.
Well, get ready for the good times to come, because reading about Michael Krudlitz was one of my favorite parts of this research. He graduated from Cal Arts, and his first job was as a carpenter on Tales from the Dark Side. Okay. And he was picking up acting roles because people would see him and go, "Hey, he's big. Can he read a script?" And then he would get cast in things. So he was in Hull High, 21 Jump Street, LA Law, Step by Step, and Growing Pains as Big Guy.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Appropriate.
Then in 1990, he gets what he thinks is his dream job, because he's wanted to work on a set that he doesn't have to build every time, like just a big project. He is hired as the construction coordinator on Beverly Hills 90210. By the next year, he is cast as Tony Miller and goes on to be in 11 episodes and sort of accepts his fate that he is now an actor and not a foreman.
That's so funny. He's desperately trying to work off stage and they keep pushing him into the spotlight. That is so funny.
I read an interview with him just 3 years ago. He maintains his membership in whatever the construction guild is, because he's like, what if acting doesn't keep? I can always go back to building things.
It's like, I just want to build stuff. Stop making me be a person.
In 2009, he's got lots of other credits. I mean, obviously the Walking Dead one is maybe That's biggest one.
Wild. That is so funny.
And I think after that, you are now an actor. Like, you are very well known.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I never watched Southland, but he is cast as John Cooper for 43 episodes of Southland, and he plays a gay man.
Oh, wow. I've not watched that either. That's cool.
Yeah. And then I have no idea what to do with anything, because I barely knew that this series existed. In the new Superman and Lois series, he plays Lex Luthor.
I like you to say the new Superman and Lois series when that has like been that's like ran and been done. Like
Oh shit! Well, I meant not like
not Lois and Clark.
Yeah, not Lois and Clark is what I was really going for there.
Yeah, I haven't watched. That's been on my list to watch because I know I like what I've seen of it, and people rave about it and everything. And also, I remember seeing the picture of him when they cast him. It's sort of like, oh, so Lex Luthor is hot now. Okay, like. Yeah, but I've not yet gotten around to actually watching it, but that's been on my list. I'm excited to see his take on Lex. It's an interesting casting choice.
Yeah, well, I do think he's a very good actor, and because I got to read some interviews with him, he seems like a really fun guy too.
Nice, I love that.
And then the last sort of guest cast on this one is Whitney Dillon as Lizette. That's the girl who likes cars, Derek, since she's never actually named.
That's true. They never name her, do they?
I was like, who's Lizette? And I was like, oh, right, Lizette.
I mean, look, she's like not a real person. She's like very much like an archetypal character and the kind of comedy plot device in this episode. So,
but you know what? Buffy is her first job, and for what she is asked to do, I think she does a really good job.
Yeah, it's fun.
She likes cars. Yeah. She goes on to be on Angel. She's on ER. She's on Charmed. And then in 2016, she's on Pitch. And today, she is a model, travel blogger, and influencer.
I know she's obviously not playing the same character on Angel, but it would be kind of funny if like if they like ported her over and sort of like, this girl's popping. We need someone who's really into cars.
Well, Angel had
the Hyperion.
Thank you. Angel had that great car.
He did. Yeah.
She could just like sit on it and be like, God, this is a nice car.
Lisette becomes a recurring character. Look, I mean, two of Xander's like exes end up on Angel, like in pretty significant roles.
That's
Why
right.
not this one too?
That's right. You know, I said this was our last one, but I'm actually going to save one for my other category. Saviero Guerrero is Willie the Snitch. And I only want to bring him up because when I did my background on him, learning that Willie the Snitch is only in 5 episodes of Buffy made my jaw drop because I was like,
it feels like such a presence, but he shows up like in like once a season for like 3 or 4 years, right?
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Feels like
it
he's been around for a long
stretches.
time.
But I was like, 5 only, and this is one of them?
Yeah, because he's barely in this one.
He's barely in this. But he's probably best known for his role as he's Bob in the Ted Danson sitcom Becker, which is a medical comedy sitcom.
Yeah. I've never met a single person in my life who's ever watched Becker, but I know people did because it ran for a long time.
I know, 6 seasons. I like Ted Danson, so I probably would like it, but I like
Terry Farrell too. She's great.
I don't know anything about this.
I don't know. I remember seeing ads for it and didn't think they looked funny. So
yeah, okay,
that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, that's probably how funny can you make cancer? I don't know.
Jesus. Look, guess we got to do a Becker episode on gimmicks at some point.
Oh God.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we've talked around it. Gimmick of this episode. The most straightforward way to describe it is that it's just like a side character spotlight, right? And I think it's a little bit of like a hero of another story, basically focusing on a supporting character, in this case, Xander, who was, the show is titled Buffy the Vampire Slayer. 9 times out of 10, Buffy is going to be the main character in an episode. And even if it's an episode that's like focused on one of the other side characters, Buffy and the other characters are still going to be a significant part of it, right?
Right.
But this one is very squarely positioning Xander as a supporting character, elevating him to being the protagonist of the story, and essentially distilling the narrative to follow him and him alone as the A-plot, relegating what would normally be the A-plot, which is like this apocalyptic event that all of the main characters are involved in, making that the B plot. So you're flipping the A plot and B plot here, essentially, right? There's many versions of this type of story and trope and gimmick that can exist, right? You've seen them on plenty of things. You've got those like standalone stories that'll focus on characters that are like only tangentially related or that are only appear in that one episode. Stuff like Long Time in The Last of Us, which we've covered on gimmicks before. Stuff like Dark Quiet Death and Mythic Quest, which we've referenced before, and I'm sure at some point we'll cover that episode. Like those are really common in TV now, especially. Like people complain about them a lot at this point. There's other stories like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern type stories, like referencing the Shakespeare characters, obviously, but essentially like if you are familiar with the movie Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead, that's where it sort of comes from, where it's like, what if we take these tied characters and retell a story you're familiar with from their perspective? And then there's other types of episodes like the Lower Decks episodes, which is named after the Star Trek The Next Generation episode that I'm also sure we'll do at some point because it's so important to the history of gimmicky television. That episode is a completely new story that positions like tertiary characters into like main characters' roles. And basically like what happens on the part of the ship that like the main cast of the Enterprise isn't seeing, right? Like when you have like those side characters, like if I think the Buffy version of that would be if they like had some random Sunnydale students that you like barely like an episode focused on like Larry and Harmony or something like that.
I wish.
Right?
Oh my God.
That would be a true Lower Decks episode. This one is interesting. It's not like a true Lower Decks one because Xander is a main character. He's the second build character in the credits. It's not like he's not a tertiary character. He is a main character in the show. But I think what makes it particularly interesting is that he is still rarely the focus of the story and the amount of focus he gets, and that you are really actually seeing the events of the show play out from his perspective as well. They cut away to other characters in this episode, but it's usually like very briefly, and oftentimes Xander will show up and like interact with them in that scene eventually, interrupted eventually. I think the other side of it too, this sort of hero of another story kind of thing, is this idea that Xander's plot is like so completely divorced from the main plot that even when they cross over, they're kind of unaware that each other's plots are happening. There's a whole apocalyptic storyline happening that the main cast is dealing with that Xander's only getting little glimpses of. So thus we as the audience only get little glimpses of it, while the main characters have no idea that this other plot with Xander is even happening whatsoever. So it's like the audience is kind of getting this like secret peek into like this other little side story that's happening, but at the cost of not being able to see what would be a typical episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer at the same time.
Yeah. And I think to like reinforce that, they make the typical scenes so much more typical.
Yes, that's the other thing that I think makes this episode really fun, is that I think elevates it, I think, beyond a lot of other shows that have done episodes like this, because it's not just, oh, we're just seeing a separate story following Xander. It's like they use that mechanic to then become a self-parody of its own show. So like what we're seeing with the main cast dealing with, it is like the checkbox of a typical Buffy, like big mid-season episode or season finale. And it's overplayed. It's so exaggerated. It's so satirized. If you're looking for like a melodramatic Buffy and Angel argument scene with like loud blaring music, it is the loudest, blaringest music. It is the most cliched lines, like, tell me you don't love me. I'll die without you. It's like, it's so funny and like so obvious too. Like you watch it is so heightened. And I think the justification being that we're seeing it through Xander's eyes, and he's going to kind of see these things as the most sort of exaggerated versions of them, rather than the audience's objective point of view.
Yeah. I love that you bring that up, because I think that if I have straight on the page critiques, some of the ways the characters are written are a little hard for me. Cordelia in particular.
But I think if you frame it from seeing it from Xander's perspective, that is how everything they say to him reads to him. I think a lot of criticisms of this episode that I think are wrong-headed, in my opinion, are that like Xander has been shown to be capable. The group never treats him like he's like unextraordinary and useless in other episodes. But I'm like, he thinks that he is,
That's exactly right.
That's exactly he thinks that they view him as unextraordinary, because the whole point of this is his like inferiority complex and self-confidence issues. So like we're just it is, I mean, not to throw out like this phrase, but it is an unreliable narrator situation, because Xander is the narrator technically here. We're seeing it through his eyes.
Yeah. Well, not to Sixth Sense this, but like Cordelia doesn't interact with anyone but Xander. So for all intents and purposes, Cordelia like is a psychic manifestation of Xander's insecurities.
I never thought about that, David. That's genius.
She's not she's not actually in the episode.
That's actually a really genius take, because it works on both sides, because I think it's believable when you watch it that it's like they're exes. They were dating for a long time. Cordelia, I think at this point, does know him better than anyone else aside from maybe Willow. And the way that Cordelia knows Xander is very particular. And she would be the kind of character that would tactlessly voice all of those things, all of those flaws and deep, dark secrets she knows about him. So like, it makes sense in character. But your take also makes sense because everything she says is kind of what Xander's like negative self-talk would be.
Yeah. And when I realized, because I think it was when they were sitting at the picnic table at the coda of the episode, that I was like, why isn't Cordy there? She's part of the group, but she didn't participate in the demon thing, and that's normal. Like, Cordy doesn't fight demons. And then I started going back and being like, what's the deal? Like, Cordelia, she interacts with no other character than Xander. Yeah. She's just
I think that. Yeah, well, but even then, if you're watching it if you've been watching the whole season, like, she is at a point in the show where, like,
that's right,
she is kind of a satellite character a bit. After the big Xander cheating on her breakup thing, she's just like, I don't want to hang out with these motherfuckers anymore.
That's right.
Most of the season, to the point that it's like, I think kind of frustrating because she gets so little to do in this season.
Waylaid,
I kind of in a holding pattern until she jets off to the spinoff, you know? So this is during the period where she's like specifically actively avoiding them and usually just popping in for a couple of funny lines and disappearing for a while. Yeah. So it still makes sense. But again, your take also makes sense too. And it's really brilliant, actually.
And don't be wrong, it never took me out. And I have to give the credit of that to Charisma Carpenter. Like, she could spit at the camera and I'd be like, oh my God, that character was beautiful. Do it again.
Yeah, truly.
Because she's just so outrageously good. But I think that if I just looked at the words on a page, I'd be like, it's a little mean for Cordelia in season 3. It's perfect.
She also hates Xander right now, though. He broke her heart. He truly broke her heart in a really, really awful way. Like just a few episodes before this.
And if I'll offer something, this is almost like love from Cordelia to Xander in this moment, because it is this expression of like turning the knife, and she is getting personal satisfaction out of it because she's perfect and she should. But like, I imagine that if Xander and Cordelia had worked out, this would be how they show affection for the rest of their marriage. Like,
sure. That's, there's so many tangents to go on this, but like the Cordelia Xander relationship is another like contemptuous one in like Buffy fandom and writing and things like that. But it's another things in this show where it's just like, I don't think they were ever meant to be together. I don't think that they're good end game, but seeing them together is so interesting narratively. And I do think provides so much fun viewing stuff. And also character wise, I think it's important for characters like that, that are like opposites to get together, because they do very substantially evolve because of their relationship. And I think you sort of see that manifested here, where it's just like the way that Cordelia and Xander like fire at each other and have spats, there's no other two characters on this show, no other pair of characters on this show or Angel that work like that in the way that they do. They have a really particular kind of chemistry where this sort of back and forth, super mean, knife twisting, salt in the wound quipping that they do to each other, only the two of them can do that to each other.
I think Lila and Cordelia would be the closest second to that, and there's just not enough of their time together compared to Xander Cordelia.
If they dated, that would be.
I mean, if they dated, perfect. Save Angel season 5, like perfect, right to the moon,
right?
Cordelia encourages us to think about what she says to Xander. She calls him the Zeppo and then immediately says, cool, look it up. And at first I was like, she said, you're the Zeppo, look it up. And I was like, okay, let's do that. Because I don't really know what this means. It is a reference to the Marx Brothers. And I'm familiar with the Marx Brothers, but like, Derek, outside of like cultural awareness, are you a big Marx Brothers head?
No, not at all.
Me neither.
I know the names. Okay. And I know the look. I know what Groucho looks like, but like, if you're asking me to like explain the significance of their vaudeville routine and why they're so influential in comedy, I would really struggle to be able to do that. That's very much in my wheelhouse.
I think critically they're influential for writers of Joss Whedon's era, but we'll do a little bit of background for the Marx Brothers. So they're an American vaudeville act, and they are part of the group of American vaudeville acts that moved to film, this very video killed the radio star moment. It's Laurel and Hardy, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin. And they're all part of the sort of the last breath of vaudeville until it transforms into a different type of theatrical experience, and silent and then talking pictures take over what all these acts were doing. The Marx Brothers in particular were always sort of political, and their dialogue, once they got to be recorded, was always fast-paced with rotating characters, but always characters who were similar to the last one that they played so that the audience got used to. This is what Harpo does. This is what Groucho does. And that's what made them so popular and what kept them on the radar for everyone. Mm-hmm. There was a resurgence of the Marx Brothers in the 1960s, 1970s, particularly thanks to college students who had been inundated with news and protests about Vietnam War, discovering Duck Soup, which is the only Marx film I have watched because probably, frankly, my English teacher in high school was one of these kids and was like, I'm going to force you to watch this movie. And I don't think we liked it very much, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because that's a movie that like very heavily satirizes like war and politics, right?
And here's the thing. I bet if I watched it right now, I would probably think it was genius. But as a 15, 16-year-old, I was like, I get it. War is bad. Like, hello, look at what I'm going through right now. The Gulf, like we're there. It's still happening. Anyway, most commonly people remember the trio, Groucho, Harpo, and Chico. But there were actually 5 Marx Brothers, just like there were 5 Whedon brothers. That includes Gummo and Zeppo Marx. So this one of the stupidest things I've said on a podcast, but these are not actually these men's names.
You know what? Maybe their parents are just very creative people. Like, look, the main character of this show is called Buffy. So
listen, well, that's true. That's true. One of the like comic strips that was really popular in the day had a detective who called everyone with an O name. And I guess it caused sort of a national interest in nicknames that ended in O. And this family was subject to experience that. And so they're all plays on the types of characters that they would play. So Groucho would be grouchy. Like, this is going to start sounding like I'm naming dwarves, but that is kind of how it happens. Chico was a womanizer. He was always going after chicks. Harpo was silent, speaking through the use of instruments like the harp he taught himself how to play. And then you had Gummo, who walked around silently like a gumshoe. I never really think about detectives being silent, but I guess they should be for effective detecting. And then Zeppo. Zeppo's name has a lot of misremembering among the Marx Brothers. So Groucho would proclaim that it's because he was born when the German Zeppelin made it to Lakehurst, New Jersey. And frankly, that's just not true. Like the dates don't work on that one. So in Harpo Speaks, which was Harpo's autobiography, since he famously did not speak, he claimed that the name was from a chimpanzee that was featured in a comic strip named Mr. Zippo, and Herbert, which is the real name of Zeppo Marx, complained, and so they said, well, we're going to use that now, so we're going to call you Zeppo.
Okay.
Not for nothing, he's the youngest brother. Zepp is a sort of Italian-American way of referring to the youngest person, so it could also just be youngest.
Sure. But his whole deal, right, is that he's like the straight man, ultimately. Yes. And like, if you have any, familiarity with comedy, like the straight man, like is like the least fun thing to do because you aren't the one who's getting jokes or bits or who gets to be funny. Your whole deal is to react to the ridiculousness around you.
Dad, let me congratulate you. I'm proud to be your son.
My boy, you took the words right out of my mouth. I'm ashamed to be your father. You're a disgrace to our family name of Wagstaff, if such a thing is possible. What's all this talk I hear about you fooling around with a college widow? No wonder you can't get out of college. 12 years in one college. I went to 3 colleges in 12 years and fooled around with 3 college widows. When I was your age, I went to bed right after supper. Sometimes I went to bed before supper. Sometimes I went without my supper and didn't go to bed at all. A college widow stood for something in those days. In fact, she stood for plenty.
There's nothing wrong between me and the college widow.
There isn't, huh? Then you're crazy to fool around with her.
Oh, but you don't know.
I don't want to talk to you about this again, you snob. I'd horsewhip you if I had a horse. You may go now. Leave your name and address with the girl outside, and if anything turns up, we'll get in touch with you. Where you going?
Well, you just told me to go.
So that's what they taught you in college.
Zeppo wasn't like not talented or anything like that, but his characters would, by their nature, have to be less outrageous, less big, probably less memorable. Nobody's favorite character is going to be Zeppo if everyone else has these big bits they can remember. And Zeppo's whole deal is to not be memorable because he has to react to all his brothers. Right. Because you do need that. You do need that function. Like, that is functionally important to have a straight man to react to the ridiculous things, to make it clear what you're supposed to be laughing at, right? But I think the genius of this episode is that, like, if you are in life associating yourself with being the Zeppo, you're going to feel like my entire role is not to be the lead. My entire role is not to be in the spotlight. My entire role is to not actually be specialized or, quote, extraordinary. Xander is someone who is not the main character. He doesn't have special abilities. The narrative of the show, like, isn't revolving around him. He is meant to support the larger narrative of the show.
Right.
And if you were someone who realized that, like, I'm a supporting character, I'm the straight man, I'm not the star, like, this episode is sort of like, how does that fuck you up?
Right.
And how conversely is actually that not a bad thing, realizing that. So just like Zeppo is like necessary, you know, in certain constructions of the Marx Brothers, and the straight man is necessary in comedy, Xander being a supporting character, just because he's not the main character doesn't mean he's not important, and that he is not, like, necessary to the world and not special in his own way, even if his specialness is being the Zeppo.
Yep. And I think back to the character insert of it, or the author insert of it all, we can sort of see that if Whedon was informed by the Marx Brothers, which I think based on his quick dialogue, we have to assume, and the fact that he probably was the one in the writer's room who was like, call him the Zeppo. He probably identifies himself a little bit with this. He was bullied by his older brothers. He was bullied when he went to boarding school. He was smaller than everybody else. He was younger than everyone else. And that can sort of create an internal technology that if you're going to make a self-insert character, you're going to give a lot of that too. And so I think Xander's struggle in this episode probably mirrors some of the struggle of the creator of this series.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned it at the top, but, like, Joss Whedon made it very clear, like, what happily talk about how Xander was his self-insert character.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing to think about then when you, like, look at Xander's arc, because it's just like, oh, your self-insert character ends up, like, in some ways being a love interest or romance to every single main hot female character in the cast. Like, is set up to be a potential love interest for Buffy. They even flirted with potentially pairing them up depending on how things went. He does hook up with Willow briefly, tragically. He is in a long-term relationship with Cordelia. He's in a long-term relationship with Anya. In the comics, he gets with Dawn, and they are the end game, which is never not fucked up to me. Yes, Xander and Dawn are the fucking end game in the comics, which, again, doesn't really shed a good light on Whedon, does it? Like, yeah, it's gross. He fucks Faith in this episode. The only person that Xander doesn't hook up with that's, like, arguably a main character is Tara. And even then, you know that, like, he envisions her and Willow, like, making out all the time.
Right.
So, like, if you're thinking of a self-insert character, I do think that, like, in some ways, on the self-awareness end, it's like Whedon recognizing, like, yeah, as a teenage boy and as a young man, like, I'm very horny and kind of gross, and we're gonna put some of that onto Xander and make it clear, like, how wild it is, because it's true to life. But also, it's a little bit of certainly wish fulfillment as well.
Yeah, it's really hard to divorce that. But I think it makes for a fascinating conversation with all of this table setting for this episode, because I don't think Faith is as much of a, like, I'm a horny boy fantasy as it could be read on the page. It is. This has some real conversation about what masculinity means.
It does.
I'm so excited to get into it.
Yeah, we can start getting into it. There's not really much making of stuff at this point in the show. They're firing on all cylinders. They're just like, they will come up with an idea and write it. I think that it was natural. They've already done a Xander centric episode in the previous season, so it makes sense that they decide to do another Xander centric episode. And I think it just makes sense to kind of come up with an idea like this to focus on him. And this is late enough in the show too, where they've sort of established the tropes of a usual Buffy episode, so then they can self-parody it. So
exactly.
It's just the perfect time for something like this. Nick Brendon said that this was the only time where he read a Buffy script and cried, because he realized, like, just how important this was going to be for his character and for him. He considers it like the most important episode for his character and everything. So I think it was very important to him at the time as well. I just want to call this out. I just think it's really funny. The WB's episode promo for this one is really funny if you watch it, because, like, the WB at the time for this show, for whatever reason, they just, like, were so afraid at ever acknowledging that Buffy was a funny show. So everything you ever watch is, like, the most, like, dire, deep, like, dark, horror centric, like, ads for everything, even the funniest episodes.
It's beautiful.
A witch's spell
When you think about it,
turns Xander
you and I make a lot of sense.
into every woman's obsession.
Aren't you gonna open your present?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
One by one, civilized people are reverting
Hey, you all right in there?
to their primal instincts. Now, even Buffy's own friends don't recognize her.
Don't make Cave Slayer unhappy.
An all-new Buffy the Vampire Slayer next week on the WB's New Tuesday.
This one, they at least play like silly, twinkly music and play some comedic scenes. But the vocal announcer for this is so uber serious. This like dark, like Xander goes on his own mission. Like it's just so funny.
Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to call it because that was like a little rabbit hole I fell into recently of just watching WB's Buffy promos that honestly, like I love them, but they're kind of horrible. They do not represent the show well at all. They're so bad, but it's kind of hilarious.
I don't think I've ever told this on air, but when I was working for the National Campaign Against Youth Violence, the WB was one of our colleagues. And so we had a meeting with them up in New York. And the guy was like, "Oh, you're a teenager." And I was. And he's like, what do you look for in, like, I think he called them trailers. I don't think he called them promo.
Sure.
What do you look for in a trailer for TV episodes? And I think what I said was, I want to know what happens on the episode. And I just remember him being like, I don't know that we're doing that.
No.
It was like the first moment in my life that I was like, oh, no one knows what they're doing in careers. Like none of this matters.
So funny. Yep, that sounds about right for this.
And then he asked me what I watched, and I said Dawson's Creek. And he goes, "Oh, homosexual. Got it." Got
Incredible.
it. Okay, well, let's jump into the episode because when we're talking about stupid, weird production things, Derek, last time on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Previously on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
You're fired.
You're fired. That's it.
So good.
Howled.
It's so funny. It's so funny. You know what's tragic too? Luckily the streaming, like this is one scenario where the streaming services are better than the DVDs. The DVDs cut out.
Oh, they don't have any of that. That's right.
The previously ons to a point where it's like when they'll do really interesting things with previous ons, like they do for The Gift.
Yeah.
It's like not there. And I'm like, sorry, that's a fucking important part of the episode. So because I've been watching through these on my DVDs just because it's fun.
Sure.
Just, see the clunky menus
hilarious.
that are impossible to fucking operate and take 4 hours to load. I still will sometimes be like, for this one, when I rewatch it for the podcast, and I'm like, I'm going to open it up on fucking Hulu because I need to hear "you're fired."
It's so fun. It feels intentional. It feels like we're going to set this comedy episode up from the very beginning.
I hope it's intentional. Yeah.
I did not even think about this because I think that it was just on sale on iTunes at one point in time. And I was like, we should own Buffy. Like, it's just something I should not rely on some streamer having the rights to this. And now, having no physical media after our move. Yeah. I didn't even really think, because we've been watching plenty of episodes. I didn't even think about the last time being there. And then they probably weren't when I was binging these. Yeah. And so we're going to get to a point that there's going to be really fun ones that I just haven't seen a million times.
But yeah, I mean, like, I like the way we open this, like right in the middle of, again, a typical Buffy battle that I think very astutely shows off in rapid fashion everyone's specific capabilities that they have. Yep. Like that you have like Buffy and Faith are slayers with super strength. Willow has a spell that they specifically reference. Giles has like the information and knowledge to instruct them. So to specifically highlight that, like, what would Xander contribute other than just to like be another, just like a body that's there, right? And so after they fight off the demons, they like literally find him just like in rubble, like, oh, I'm okay.
My poor baby boy.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I fucked up the opening, but two guys wrestling not in a gay way is probably my favorite line of the episode. But right behind it is Willow. This like, I brought marshmallows in case we burned the demons, and then saying, occasionally I am callous and strange. It is such Buffy speak. It is so good.
But Allison Hannigan's delivery of that is A+ perfect. It's so cute.
Yes. Yeah. And I know Buffy speak gets criticized, but wow, that one's it's a pretty 100% perfect notch.
I think Buffy speak is criticized because it's been badly replicated a lot throughout the years. This show wouldn't work if they didn't talk like that.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
We even get a little bit with Faith and Buffy being like, you could have been hurt, you could have been killed, you could have been hurt and killed.
Yeah. Right.
It's just good writing. It's just really well written episode.
Also, right off the bat, I don't know how intentional this is. Although, like, they at this point in the show, they were thinking pretty deeply about things. But like, Buffy's hair is like crimped in this one, which very rarely happens, and I think really only happens when there's something like weird going on. Like, I think her hair might be kind of crimped in like Superstar too, or something, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's obviously weird in the one where I always forget the name of it. The one where she's in the institution.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. If Buffy's hair is different, watch yourself. You might be in a gimmick episode.
Yeah. Right.
I like what you did with your hair. Then, okay, we have the opening credits. I don't know. Season 3 is one of the peaks to me for Buffy credits.
I think so. Buffy has some of my favorite opening credits of any show just because it's very simple and straightforward. It's just unafraid to rapidly cut shots with the song. And so it's so addictive to watch because they're so fast and they pack in both cool shots and extremely funny, weird shots is what's great about it.
And I think, credit where it's due. And I don't think we really get the second great version of this until Smallville. But these credits also tell me a little bit of what I need to know about the show.
And each character, too.
Each character. So that I'm sort of prepped and ready to go in case this is my first Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode.
That's so true.
And that's really smart.
Yeah, I love it. It's good. This is the first season where they have the new theme song. This is the first thing that does get rid of the witch scream, which is unfortunate, but I'm willing to sacrifice it for better edited credits.
It's pretty devastating though, now that I'm in season 1 and I'm like, oh, my witch scream. She's so good. She's so good.
Yeah. Oh, well.
And I always forget, and I know I'm not the only person, I always forget that that's not Willow. Because I think when it just flashes up, I'm like, oh, Willow's screaming. And then I was like, no, God, that was the actual witch, the titular witch.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Then we're at Sunnydale High. Xander is trying to play football with jocks and ends up colliding with Jack, who threatens him. And then shortly thereafter, we have Cordelia with her sort of thesis statement, Xander's not cool.
And right off the bat, I like that it's immediately kind of honing in on these like masculinity conversations because it's Xander trying to do something like after being completely like kind of humiliated in this fight that a bunch of the women, all the women around him do better operating in and are better fighters in, doing this like ostensibly masculine thing of being good fighters. The next day, Xander's immediately trying to do a masculine thing too, which is playing football with the guys. Can't fucking do it without looking like a total loser, and then crashes into a guy named Jack O'Toole.
Oh my God, I didn't even do that. That is so keen. That is so smart to do.
Yeah. If you, I'll call out the Passion of the Nerds YouTube Buffy Guide episode on this, because the entire time throughout it, he is like listing off every single like penis metaphor in it. Like there's the obvious, like, is this a penis metaphor scene where Xander's calling his car his thing? But like, that's where I never considered Jack O'Toole, but I'm like, Jack O'Toole. He's a
Jack
fucking
O'Toole,
just living penis. Like
that is what he is. And he gets eaten by a werewolf, which I wish more penises would get.
Right.
Oh, just incredible. I well done them then, because I did not put that together, and I even wrote the words Jack O'Toole in these notes and didn't even process it. Me
either. It's so good.
I was just like, naming characters is hard, y'all. Like, let's go.
Yeah. But also, I just also want to point out, I don't really need to go into every detail of every scene because this episode has so much happening in it, but I have to call out Cordelia's like executive business lady outfit that she's wearing in this. What are they putting her in? Why does she look like she's 40? I don't understand. She's supposed to be an 18-year-old in high school.
She looks incredible, but it's completely wrong. And that just reinforces that this is some sort of vision of Sanders. Like,
I don't know. Some of the outfits they put Cordelia in this season are just like, you do remember she is playing a high school student though, right?
Yeah.
Like I know that Charisma Carpenter like is obviously not a high school student, but at least like pretend a little bit.
What's wild is that it's been a while since I've watched all of season 1 of Angel, but I remember her outfits being like 100% bangers in season 1 of Angel.
They're good in Angel. Yeah, I think they style her well. This episode,
but season 3,
they're just like, we need to age her up substantially for some reason. I don't get it. It's so weird. She looks good. She's rocking them. Well, it just does not make any goddamn sense.
But when she goes and works for that boutique at the end of season 3, she looks like she's wearing the same clothes as her like manager, grandma manager. And I was like, no. I don't like this.
It's really weird. Yeah.
Okay. I was prepared if you asked me who my favorite Buffy character was to maybe say Oz. And it might be because of scenes like this. Xander goes to the cafeteria and tries to learn what it means to be cool from Oz. You could take this all out, but in a lot of ways, Xander doesn't have male friends. Right. And Oz isn't really his friend because he hooked up with like his girlfriend.
Yeah, I think it's always an interest. I actually think it's smart in a way. Like the downside is that like I do think Oz, like Cordelia this season, despite being in the main credits, gets like really fuck all to do, to be honest. He is just around to react to other characters, which like Seth Green is good at. Like I don't always love Seth Green in a lot of stuff, but I really do love him as Oz because he just doesn't talk much. Right. But I do think it's smart though that Xander never really has like a real male friend on the whole run of the show. It's either Oz or like Riley, and he hates Angel and he hates Spike. So like there's nobody there that's not just like one of his friend's boyfriends that kind of tolerates him, you know? And so I do think that's important to show. And I do think that's important to show that here, that like Xander is kind of like alone in his masculinity struggles. And the one male friend that he has is someone who's like not really interested in having like an in-depth conversation about it. Cause Oz is a character who's just sort of like, I am what I am. Like, I don't really.
Yeah.
And I think he's there as like a contrast to Xander, is like, this is a guy who's like comfortable in his masculinity. He's not having these issues. He's just like, I'm just a dude doing my thing. And that alone makes him cool. But Xander, who's overthinking everything, which a lot of people do, like, if being cool is not overthinking stuff, how do you become cool without overthinking it? You know?
Right. Oz almost reads to me as someone who's like evolved beyond gender, and Xander's someone who just learned the concept of masculinity and is like, am I doing it right? Am I doing man right? And that's what I think makes this scene really work well together.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's important to have Xander outwardly voice what his issues with masculinity are right from the get-go too, so we know what we're dealing with him here.
Yeah. And this is our first of what will be many cuts of, oh, don't worry, it's not the ... and then Giles saying end of the world. This is a well we go to a lot. You know what? Every single one of them worked for me, dear.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I think in this episode especially, it's really fun because these are meant to be scenes that like aren't really connected at all. And so this is the way you find the connection. So it still feels like, I think it helps the flow of this episode, honestly, because it does feel like every scene is flowing into the next one, even if they technically have nothing to do with each other, you know?
Right. And so this is where Giles is doing his, usual exposition dump that the sisterhood of Jay, who's these women demons, are bringing apart the end of the world. Yeah. This is where I first note.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The most like basic apocalyptic, some demons are going to start the apocalypse, but everyone is so heavily dour and serious about it. And then it's just like, this is one of the most serious things we've ever dealt with on our entire run of this TV show. Yeah. Like that's what's so heightened about it that makes it so funny. It's so textbook.
I do like that I guess it's the B plot, the subfused A plot into B plot deals with women as the sort of progenesis of this apocalypse.
I didn't think about
because that makes the masculine struggle all lives in Xander's plot, and then this feminine struggle lives with the rest of our characters.
Yeah,
that's a good point. It just looks nice when it balances.
Yeah.
This is when I first noticed the score. It was my second watch through that I was like, oh, we're scoring the lore dump a little bit heavier than we normally would. It's getting just a little extra coat of paint. And later, as you've already mentioned, we'll do 6 or 7 coats of that paint on.
It's so good. A lot of these scenes are like, if you're someone who like doesn't like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, these scenes are what you're seeing from your perspective.
Yeah.
That's what you think the show is. Yeah.
Now we've got a scene where Buffy and Willow are talking about what the stakes are for their plot, that the multi-headed demon from the night Buffy died is going to come out of the ground, then more demons after that. But Xander interrupts them by driving up in his brand new car.
You girls need a lift?
What is this?
What do you mean, what is it? It's my thing.
Your thing?
My thing.
Is this a penis metaphor?
It's my thing that makes me cool. You know, that makes me unique. I'm a car guy. Guy with a car.
How can you afford it?
Uncle Rory, stacking DUIs, let me rent this bad boy till he's mobile again.
Well, it's nice.
Could you sound a little less enthused?
Sorry. Evil.
Big?
Biggest. Maybe more than I can handle.
We'll handle it together. You know I'm here for you. Just tell me what I can do. Take 2 glazed, 2 cinnamon, a couple cream filled, and a jelly. No, let's round that out to 4 jellies.
Ooh, some evil going on. Must be big for them to entrust you with this daredevil mission.
Cordelia, feel free to drop dead of a wasting disease in the next 20 seconds.
Ooh, again, I strike the nerve.
Which I like the detail that it's just like, of course he can't afford to buy a car. He had to borrow it from his uncle who had like too many DUIs.
Very, very good out of the pile of Xander's characterization. That's perfect. Good job, writers. That is how Xander would get a car.
Yeah, it's a cool car though. It is really nice.
Car.
Like, and I love
It's a
the
cool
color,
car.
the like sort of cyan color of it.
Yeah. He asks what he can do to help, and then we smash cut to the espresso pump where he's buying donuts.
Yes. Which we get another fun little scene with Cordelia, who it's like fun that she's like, I love your perspective on her now, because I'm watching, I'm like, she's just this like wandering observer who's just like going through Sunnydale and just like showing up and commenting on things like Xander's personal Greek chorus, but the interpretation that like she is just in his head, she is just his negative self-talk personified, like makes so much sense. It's so good.
But this is where she says that she's the surgeon of mean, and I was like, God, Charisma Carpenter, you could say anything, truly and honestly. Because Surgeon of Mean, I think, could get botched in so many ways. And she delivers it with like the right amount of screw twist, but also like there's a little bit of pathos there. And I just really appreciated the delivery on all of her lines.
I also like this like next scene, like during that bit, Xander does run into like this Lisette character, because it's a funny joke where Cordelia is like, no one's gonna like care about your car, and this lady comes over and is like, cool car. And it's like, at first it's sort of like, oh, if Xander for once gets kind of a one up on Cordelia, but the twist of it is that the girl literally only likes the car. She does not give a fuck about Xander. She just loves the car, and then they're at the Bronze, and she is just talking his ear off about cars. And Xander, despite thinking that like, oh, a masculine thing is to be like a guy with a cool car, doesn't actually give a fuck about cars or car culture. Exactly. So now that he's actually stuck in this, now his punishment is being stuck in this environment where he can only be talked to about cars and has nothing of value to say, with a person who also has no interest in hearing what he has to say about anything else other than cars.
Yeah, it's incredible, because it almost does feel like another element of like, the patriarchy and toxic masculinity will convince you that that's where you belong. But as soon as you get there, you realize you don't have anything to do with all these people. Yeah. And now you're stuck there with them. And so I think Lisette is like a symbol of that toxic masculinity.
It's such a common queer experience. I feel like, of like, being like this, like a queer artist kid who's like, I guess I have to play Little League because that's what the boys do and my parents are telling me to do, being terrible at it, hating every second of it, humiliating yourself over and over again, feeling worse about yourself because you're like, well, I'm not good at this thing that boys are supposed to do, when the whole reality is just sort of like, you just never liked it. Like, that's okay. Like, and we have to be able to be okay with that.
Yeah. And we're getting it right here. I love how anxious Xander is to talk to Angel when he comes in.
Oh my God.
It's
Angel, the person
so
he hates
sweaty.
So much.
Yes.
And the fact that I think too, the other like self-parody element of it is that like they have Angel come in and he's like, worried and like talking so cryptically, and David Boreanaz gives that like same face he always gives, where he just like slinks in and is just like has these like deeply sad eyes, and is just like you feel like the inside of it is just ready to crumble at a moment's notice. And Xander's just like, just get me away from this lady, please. And he's like, no, I have cryptic information I can't actually explain to you that I need you to deliver to Buffy, the only person I can ever talk to. Like, it's just so well handled. Every annoying angel trope that happens in this show is in this one scene, outside of him having an argument with Buffy, which we see later.
Right. And there's fun Angel. We've seen plenty of fun Angel. That this is so, I know that this is Angel brought back from hell and blah, blah, blah. He's tortured, but like he's back to a little bit of fun Angel by this point in time. So this is such an intentional way of being like, no. When Xander perceives Angel, he perceives him as this like dark brooding figure.
It's like miserable creature that is just like so not fun to be around whatsoever.
So brilliant. So brilliant.
Oh my God. But it all, Angel has this cryptic mission or whatever he has to go on. So he leaves, and then Xander tries to leave, but of course runs into Jack with his car, specifically runs into Jack's parked car, which then turns out to not actually be Jack's car. I think he was just stealing a car, I think is all.
Yeah, I think I read that too, but I think you could also read it as like the rules of masculinity are subject to change at every moment. They're just going to screw you over, Xander.
Sure. We get some setup with some Willow and Buffy and Giles stuff that's going to come into play later. But like these, I think we're starting to see these scenes become shorter and shorter and have less and less information as the episode goes along, until it culminates in you only ever seeing like maybe 10% of what's actually happening in the subplot.
Well, and what you see is about Xander, because that's when Giles comes out to be like, oh, there's no more jelly. Even though they're talking about the most important things in the world, I could imagine Xander even thinking like, I wonder what they're doing without me. I bet Giles is just pissed because he didn't get the donut he wanted.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I like that. I like that reading of it too. But yeah, we got a confrontation between Xander and Jack, which again, I think it's also useful for the masculinity conversation that like Xander is a character we've seen be a hero throughout the show when it comes to demon stuff, but like the one true like nemesis he's going to have is a high school bully that represents all the forms of masculinity that Xander thinks he needs to fit himself into, right? It's like Jack is just like this, like, this mean, aggressive guy who like, kind of takes what he wants, is just like the epitome of like really cool. He's very dominant. He literally has a knife that he named Katie that he pulls on Xander, has a knife that he named a woman's name. Again, just like the worst manifestation of like a toxically masculine person.
Yep, exactly. Then he gives the knife to Xander, but like Xander can't use that tool because that's not Xander's tool.
Right. I was trying to think of what the joke is of talking about Xander holding his tool, and it's there, but I couldn't think of a funny way to word it and deploy it.
Well, they go to pick up the boys, and this is where we raise Bob and two other zombies from the earth. And Lizette is like, I got my day rate. I'm out. She's gone.
Yeah. I do like, I know we breezed past it, but I think like what you referenced earlier about like the two guys wrestling thing, not in a gay way thing, I also think is kind of useful to the conversation a little bit too, because it is sort of like for one, I think this idea of masculinity of just being like, well, I don't know, boys will be boys. You just sort of protect bros before hoes kind of thing. You know what I mean? Where it's sort of like you protect the men within your circle, even if it's like to everyone's detriment. Like this guy shouldn't be able to pull knives on people, but you're still protecting him because that's just like the bro code or whatever. And I think it's just always funny whenever you hear Xander having like his gay panic stuff, which is like a thing that people don't like, and is very 90s. But I think also like as this show becomes more and more queer and gets actual queer characters as them deal with it, I think it kind of is just more reflected of just like, this is a teenage boy in like 1999. Of course he's going to be having fucking gay panic all over the place. And I think that was intentional because I know that like behind the scenes, they were always figuring either Xander or Willow would come out as being queer in some way. They hadn't figured it out. I think by this point in the show, they had not at all figured it out. So whenever they're writing these types of gay panic lines for Xander, it's always like, because he maybe is covering his own latent homosexuality, and we'll unveil it later. That doesn't end up being the case, although in my opinion, I think both Xander and Willow should have been gay. Everyone should have been gay.
Agreed.
But I think that means that I think it was in here not to be malicious and actually be homophobic from the writer's perspective, but just to be like, this is what the fucking patriarchy does to you. You know?
Exactly. This is a commandment of being in this world. I didn't even really read it as gay panic. I read it as like call and response of like, if you're going to sit at this table, which Xander is now committed to do, this is what you have to do.
Exactly.
And it actually read as very, just like you, it reads as very queer to me to follow call and response, because one of the things that I have learned as I've become more free about my sexuality is that when you're actually comfortable as a straight person, you don't care if someone thinks you're gay. And the more you care, the more it seems like you haven't resolved your issues. And that comes from toxic masculinity, not from really anything that has to do with who you're attracted to.
Exactly. I love the way you put that. Yeah.
Okay.
We get a fun bit where Giles,
Ooh, Daddy Giles.
Wow. Where Xander does like briefly intersect with the main plot because Giles is like visiting these like spirit guides we've never heard of, never been referenced before until this episode, will never be referenced ever again. It's like these spirit guides are going to help them like figure out the way to stop the apocalypse or whatever the fuck. It literally doesn't matter. The point is that Giles is there doing his Gilesy thing, his researchy demon communication magic thing. Xander shows up and is just like, hey, what's up? Like he's got his own thing going on and is like, do I ask for help or do I not ask for help? Or do I let this happen? What do I do? Because the manly thing would be to just take care of this on your own, right?
Right.
And so he opts to do the manly thing, which is just like not tell Giles that anything is going on and just take care of it himself, which is of course going to lead to chaos as this goes along.
Yeah. So I think the spirit guides are kind of stupid, but I like that the scene is Giles literally asking for help and then Xander coming up and being like, oh no, I can't ask for help.
Yeah. Oh my God. Because Giles is like always throughout this show, like a really good, positive representation of masculinity. Yeah.
Yep.
And so Giles does know that like, no, you know, it's like the typical, like a man never asks for directions thing.
Exactly.
Giles is like, no, I will ask for fucking directions when I need to. Xander's like, I can never ask for directions or else people will think I'm less of a man.
Right. We're just raising heck. Like it is another failure of Xander's to actually confront what is going on. And that would put him into the A plot, or I think about it as the A plot because it is what usually is there. It stops Xander from switching plot lines because he just won't confront his masculinity issues.
He could solve this problem. I'm sure Giles would be like, here's an easy way to like solve that problem now. They're dead. Yeah. It's fine. But he could have solved that and helped them with the apocalypse situation. But he chooses to go the more complicated route because he refuses to ask for help because that's not the manly thing to do.
This is where we go to Willie's bar and Willie the Snitch lies wounded. Pretty gnarly wounds. Great makeup work here on this guest actor. But
another thing that's been established as a trope of the show is that like, we've got to go to Willie the Snitch for information, or like, oh no, the villain got to the source first and they either killed them or beat them up. And now we've got to like more dramatically figure out how to stop this because it's just up the stakes more. Like, it's so good.
Yeah. And it doesn't even hold water. Like, why? It doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter that it doesn't matter because it's not the main plot. But I think this might be my perfect cut between scenes, which is him being like, you and Angel need to think about how you're going to spend your last moments on Earth, straight to Bob the Zombie going, let's get some beer.
Isn't it? I don't remember exactly which one it is, but one of the zombies, it might be Bob, is like wanting to make sure that like while I was dead, did you tape every episode of Walker, Texas Ranger?
Yes.
Which again, it's like, of course, the Chuck Norris TV show. If we're talking about fucking toxic masculinity, like fucking Chuck Norris.
It's that here's an instant cultural reminder about who these men are.
It's so good. It's so good, dude.
Yeah, it's so excellent.
Also, the zombie makeup in this is really good. I think they were nominated for like a makeup Emmy, which makes sense.
They were. Yeah, the episode looked really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I wouldn't have hated a little light in some of the dark scenes, but that's just
the first 3 seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in a nutshell.
Just where we are. That's fine. Okay, our buddies, the zombies, are raiding a hardware store to build a bomb. They call it a cake. It's fine. But this is where Xander sees Willow leaving I guess this isn't the magic box yet, but what will become the magic
Yeah.
box later in the series, the magic store.
Yeah.
She's got supplies for a protection spell, but before she can explain protection from what, she just hugs Xander, tells him she loves him, and then leaves. And he just seems, oh, I gotta get back to my story. Like it sort of rolls off of him like water on a duck's back.
Yeah. Well, I think also part of it too is that like, because he was hoping for help or some diversion from what he's doing.
Right.
And then it's clear that she's upset and consumed in her own thing. So it's like, well, I can't put my problems on you then. So never mind. Because again, which is, I mean, that's a problem. That's not even just a masculinity problem. That's like a everybody these days problems, where it's just like, well, everyone else is going through something, so I'm not going to talk to you about my problems.
Them.
And then you just let them fester instead of ever getting help. Like that's fucking real. And I think that's also what he's going through. But yeah, so the zombies, they come back from the hardware store that they've been robbing. They tell Xander that like he needs to be initiated, but to be initiated, he has to die first. Turns out Jack O'Toole's been dead this whole time and was resurrected. So Xander's like, fuck that, dips out, drives away, then runs into Faith, who is fighting a demon, like saves her from the demons, drives her back to her apartment, and she's like, I am really hot and horny from not being able to have killed that demon. Do you want to fuck?
It's so good. It is so good. And like, this is Xander's sexual debut. This is his first time.
Xander has been very well established to have been a virgin. I think the only question would have been like, did he and Cordelia ever actually have sex? They clearly never did, because I think he says in the scene that like, this is my first time. So like this, in addition to everything else, this is Xander losing his virginity, which still also talking about the conversation of masculinity. Obviously that's a big thing for guys, right? Of like, when am I gonna lose my quote, lose my virginity, right? And the fact that the way it happens to Xander, this guy that's like seeking like traditional masculinity, that it's like a woman who is the really aggressive one that like pounces on him like a lion, like the complete opposite of how teenage boys want or expect this type of thing to go, happens with him.
Fight like that and no kill. I'm about ready to pop.
Really? Pop?
You up for it?
Oh, I'm up. I'm suddenly very up. It's just, I've never been up with people before.
Just relax. Take your pants off.
Well, those two concepts are antithetical.
Don't worry. I'll steer you around the curves.
Did I mention that I'm having a very strange night?
That was great. I got a shower.
And then, thanks, I've got a shower.
Yeah, it's the smash cut. They're like passionately together, and the smash cut to her kicking him out of his apartment, still in his underwear, just holding his clothes, is so good. Like,
Queen
she's
behavior.
treating him in the way that like so many men treat women in their sexual escapades, right? Like, and he's just experiencing that experiencing that firsthand. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's really, really incredible. And, you know, we have a little bit of Xander as a boy and like, oh, I had sex, and it like distracts him later. But I do think that ultimately this is commentary about that, like, you didn't actually achieve anything. You were just there. And that's okay. We shouldn't make such a big deal about the first time you have sex, but I don't know. It did have a lot of commentary on gender in this moment. And Faith gets brought into a lot of that. And I do love that for the character of Faith.
Obviously, for obvious reasons, there's not a lot of Faith in this episode because there's not a lot of anyone in this episode other than
Right.
Xander. But yeah, that is a character. Like, this is a show that I do think another thing that you can look back upon the early years and feel a little bit weird about is that like some of the conversations about sex are sometimes a little bit hard to parse. It does seem a little bit sort of like pro abstinence in some ways that I don't think were intentional in the first couple of seasons, for the sake of like good narrative. But I do like, definitely by this season, I think they've got a better handle on like teen and young people's sexuality and acknowledging that like teens are fucking horny. And sometimes it leads to bad decisions that they make, like Buffy and Angel. But sometimes it also is just sort of like part of the fun of it is just recognizing that it's just like, this is just a thing that happens in your life and you just kind of deal with it and move on. Like, you know, I kind of appreciate that a lot, that Xander, for someone who certainly was making a big deal about how and when am I going to lose my virginity, it happens in such an off the cuff way with someone that he never actually has a real relationship with, like, is really interesting.
This is a screw that'll get turned for Xander later in the season too, which is some great stuff.
Only like 2 episodes from then, they do some really interesting, dark and fucked up stuff with him and Faith that's like calling back to this. That's another thing that's really cool about this episode, is that like, as much as it's a high concept one, it is still integral to the plot. The stuff that happens with Xander in this, especially this super brief kind of comedic scene with him and Faith, comes back in really, 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 really important ways in this season. Yeah.
This sets up one of my favorite moments of season 3, of her being like, oh, you thought we had something. And like, we don't.
It's deeply upsetting, a really, really effectively done scene. And it's really wild to look back and see how just like, it's set up in such a fun way to be paid off in such a dark way later.
And it's one of those things that I'm like, oh, there's a lot of critique about who Xander is as a character, but wow, when you need to turn Faith into a villain, you pushed this button. You pushed the Xander button. Yeah. So you must have some feelings for Xander, because that makes her a villain.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. I also love the music during their intimacy, because it is a hair's breadth from being pornographic.
It really is.
There's some guitar twangs. It is not the Buffy Angel love theme. It is not the Willow Oz love theme.
No.
Their love theme has never touched the music that is happening in this scene.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good call out.
But then we get them, because there's this scene with Giles and Willow where they have to tranquilize Vampire Oz.
Werewolf Oz.
Well, sorry, Vampire Oz. Werewolf Oz. And then there's this like tender moment between Willow and Oz, and that's their relationship. She even expresses that she still cares for him. And to put that as the like next scene after this Faith thing this to tell Xander's story, even though this isn't about Xander in this moment.
That's such a good point. Yeah, that's another thing too that I like that this and Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered both do, is that like, even though these are Xander stories, they like use the Xander like narrative device to basically like throw everything but the kitchen sink into the episode.
Yep.
It's like, you know, Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered still had like Spike and Drusilla and Angel and Angelus like showing up and shit, and like has Amy coming back, and also has Buffy turning into a rat and stuff. Just absolutely batshit stuff happening throughout that whole episode, and like a huge supporting cast. Like all of these supporting characters are in it. In an episode that like is a pretty like straightforward concept. They let it go hog wild. Even though Xander's a central character. It's sort of the same thing here. Like, it doesn't do every kitchen sink thing, like the mayor's not in this episode or anything, but the fact that Oz is a werewolf on top of everything else, on top of the apocalypse, on top of like the Hellmouth spawn showing up again later in this episode, like the fact that they keep stacking all of those things on top of it is really, really fun.
Yeah, I agree. It would have been amazing to see Mayor Wilkins somehow in this episode. I can't even imagine.
That would have been possible.
I can't even imagine. Xander just drives by and is that the mayor?
Yeah, right. That would have been funny. Like, why is the mayor here?
What's he doing?
Doesn't realize anything bad's happening. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, in his car, Xander, I love this. This is such a subtle, funny little joke, but like the entire time the zombie guys are like showing at the hardware store, like, let's bake a cake, you guys. And then they steal a bunch of shit from a hardware store. Obviously they're referring to something like a weapon or something like that. And you're assuming that Xander is on board with it because he drives them to the hardware store and watches them steal a bunch of shit from the hardware store. It's only in this moment, like way later, that he looks at the backseat of the car and sees the stuff that he drove away with that they stole, and looks and sees what it is. And it's like, wait a minute, they're not baking a cake.
So funny. It's so funny. And a butterfly kiss one direction or the other, it wouldn't work. And it lands perfectly.
So funny. Yeah, he realized that they were intending to make a bomb. He acknowledges, like, I'm so out of my league here. I have no idea what to do with this information. They're gone now. Like, where do they go? So he's like, oh, okay, Buffy will know what to do. She's the main character, hero of the story always. She's the protagonist who will certainly know what to do. And then we smash cut to Buffy and Angel having the most overdramatic, textbook, melodramatic argument about how much they love each other, but they love each other too much to see each other die at the end of the world. Like, it's, don't talk to me like that. It's so fucking funny.
I can face this thing.
You can't.
Look, I can at least buy you enough time for Willow's spell to bind it. Buffy, this is worse than anything we've ever faced. Hey, it's the only way.
I can't watch you die again.
I love you.
I love you.
Nothing can change that. Not even death.
Don't talk to me like that. You may be ready to go, but I am not ready to lose you. Okay, this is my fight. And if you won't do it my way, then you're...
Hey, I've got this, there's this, this is probably a bad time. Can I help? Okay.
It borders on telenovela. Like, it's
Truly.
so far. It's so far. It is so
Sarah
far.
Michelle Gellar is absolutely bringing out her soap opera background
Yes.
in this. She's never delivered lines this overly passionately. I can't watch you die again. I love you so much. No, don't talk to me like that. Like, it's so good. So good.
I can't believe they didn't break. Like, I just, this feels like it should have been half the gag reel is just her trying to get through this. Because,
Seriously.
and she's having a blast. I mean, you can tell that, like, she is like, I don't get to do this anymore. This is like stupid acting. Like, what fun.
And the music, like you were saying, is so blaringly loud in this. You've never heard music in Buffy this intense before, and this dramatic and the sweeping orchestral romance theme or whatever. Xander shows up, cuts to dead silent.
Dead silence. It's incredible. It's so good.
And also, I never even picked up on this. They like, they turn to Xander. Xander's like, hey, I need your help or whatever. Am I interrupting? Buffy and Angel don't say
nothing.
a word.
Nope,
they say
nothing.
nothing. It is fully just their facial expressions, just waiting for Xander to just leave so they can get back to their scene.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even like a Xander, like you might see in an actual Buffy episode. It's truly just played for the entire comedy of this all.
It's like Xander has broken reality, and like we can't continue until he's gone so we can return to what our scene is scripted to be. Like, that's what it feels like.
And as soon as he does, there's not a lot more dialogue between them, but they do a lot more, like, there's a lot, man, they are moving their bodies so much.
Oh,
and
that's so true. The blocking of it is really well done.
And okay, listen, I've seen the series. Like, Angel and Buffy do move a lot when they talk, but this is like, they're dancing. Like, it is intense.
The camera's moving around too, isn't it, between them? And I also think that they really highlight in the scene how much taller Boreanaz is than Miller, in a way that, like, usually they have her standing on a Scully box or whatever. This one, it's like, you're going back and forth. Like, she's looking up sky high at this man. It's so good.
It's so funny. Oh. Well, this is where we're back with Giles and Willow. They're setting up a binding spell.
Of course, they're always setting up fucking I think that's smart. I think it's a subtle
funny.
joke too. How many fucking times have you heard the phrase binding spell? What the fuck does that even mean? They're always doing binding spells on this show, though.
Willow's even like, a binding spell? It's just like, yes, Willow. It's the ace up your sleeve.
The spell you guys have done on like every fucking episode that ever involves a spell of any kind.
But the zombies are setting up the bomb directly beneath them. And of course, directly beneath that is the Hellmouth.
So Xander heads to the school, which, I mean, like, assuming he's just trying to find his friends or whatever. And he just happens to luckily spot the zombies on their way there. He grabs one of them, demands to know where the bomb is. We get a really funny sequence where he's like doing his cool guy thing, cool action hero thing. He's got the zombies driving really fast. He's like, give me your information. And the zombies like spilling all, where they're planting the bomb in the school, in the boiler room.
It's in the boiler room. All right. Now I'm going to ask you this once. Okay, you better pray you get the answer. Okay. How do I defeat I probably should have left out that whole middle part.
He's interrupted by the zombie being beheaded by accidentally running into a mailbox.
It's so funny.
Ah, shit, I guess I should have taken out that middle part, huh?
It's so funny. Even the self-realization of, whoops, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
It works. It works so well.
Yeah. But Xander knows the bomb's in the school. He heads to the school. The zombies are right behind him. But then we cut to very briefly. We don't see, like, this is when they have like so much fun with like not having to film anything explaining anything, because the Buffy crew are just now in the middle of fighting the Hellmouth spawn that has come from the Hellmouth that has since opened. So we missed like an entire episode's worth of stuff here of just like shit going badly, the Hellmouth opening, the villains winning, the demon is out here, and it is specifically the same Hellmouth spawn from the first season finale too. They are like explicitly bringing that back, so it's like a fun bit of continuity too.
Yeah,
and they have fun when Giles like looks at it, it's like, my God, it's grown.
It's grown. It's great. It's so great.
I love that effect too, because like in a season that's been playing with CGI not particularly beautifully, it's fun seeing the old like actual physical like prop of this like multi-headed like wormy serpent thing. It's such a cool thing to see, and they use it really well in this one.
Well, I love when the zombie looks in the window of the library and the strobe effect is catching the monster in like the reflection of the window of the library.
It's so cool.
It's kind of, I was watching and I thought, you didn't need to do that.
No,
it's like, this is, you're rubbing it in now. You're like, we're having a good time.
Yeah. Let's see. It's just like a lot of chaos from here.
Yeah.
It's quickly going back and forth between the Hellmouth spawn battle and Xander's stuff. And what I really like about it is that like throughout all of this, the other Buffy characters have no fucking idea Xander is even here in the building. So that means like Buffy will get tossed around, thrown on right past where Xander is, and he'll run away, or like there'll be points when Xander's like hiding somewhere and the Hellmouth like demon like bursts through the wall and he has to run through it. Like, it is beautiful chaos. It's so fucking well done.
But with the zombies, it almost becomes a little bit of Scooby-Doo, because like he gets the axe from Bob, then he chases one of the zombies, and then they're both running from the like Sisterhood of Jay. Like it's I could imagine them going through one door and coming out another door.
Seriously, they're all over the place. And then in the meantime, you have like Buffy being like, Faith, go for the heart. Like, again, one of the most cliched things you can hear.
Faith, go for the heart made me howl.
It's
I don't
so
know why.
funny.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
It truly is like, if you saw this entire Buffy story, like demon story laid out, it would be one of the worst episodes of the show.
Yeah, I think so. But this makes it work.
Yeah, it's so good.
All right, one by one, all the other zombies get dealt with, mostly through other means. But Xander makes his way down to the boil room and the bomb, and Jack is there. They fight, but Xander reasons that there just isn't enough time for Jack to escape, so he too will be exploded by the bomb, and no magic will put him back together again. And it's sort of like a face-off. Jack blinks first, disarms the bomb, and then Xander gets his like moment of being like, cool, I'm gonna go.
It's really cool. Well, and I think for a character who his whole sort of archetype is being like the Chandler of the group and constantly like, making snarky remarks and talking. And like, there's even stuff later in the show where it's like his whole deal is like he saved the world by talking and things like that. Right. For his big moment of self-confidence to just recognize, like, sometimes you just be quiet, right? Sometimes you just shut the fuck up. And I think it's really cool because it is, I mean, it is like, this is like the one time where Xander is allowed to be actually cool, where he's just sort of like, you know what? I recognize that as much as masculinity is about being super aggressive and like super courageous and shit like that, like everyone is afraid of something. And this guy, Jack O'Toole guy, like as much as he wants to pretend he has no fear, he does actually have fear. And I'm going to play on that. And that allows Xander to have actually his first moment of real courage where it's like, look, if I die here, at least I died trying to stop you.
Right.
And he plays on his fear. It plays on Jack's fear in a way that ultimately works because Jack is scared to actually die, like get blown into pieces and die in a way that he couldn't be brought back.
Well, and one of the things Xander knows, because he is part of the Scooby Gang, is that the undead fear death more than maybe we the living do.
Sure.
Because
so smart.
That's it, you know?
Yeah. I really like Nicholas Brendon's really good in this scene too. Like when he like, you know, looks at the bomb and that little like side smile
the mouth
that
stuff.
he does. The mouth stuff. I don't even know how to describe it, but there's something
so
he does with
good.
his mouth because he's not saying anything. Like it's just him looking and recognizing like, yeah, I'm being for real, dude. If this bomb explodes and we all die, like so be it. And the dark side of that, I think, is like part of that could also come from like Xander's. He is so inferior that he feels like he's expendable and could die, which I think is also interesting and a little bit of a complexity to it.
Yeah.
But it's still such a really cool moment. And him saying, I like the quiet. It's so fucking badass.
Again, it's a line that I don't think works on the page, but works in the scene so well because it really is about Xander having learned something and Xander changing.
And his whole episode, he's constantly trying to throw out quips.
Exactly.
And getting interrupted with them and stuff like that. And this is the one moment where it's sort of like, I don't need to quip. I'm just making a decision. It's a thing I'm doing for the greater good. This is all I can do. And I'm just facing something for once with like no real fear.
And who quips? Jack O'Toole, because now Jack O'Toole is on the other side of masculinity, and his quip turns into eaten by Oz.
Oh, God, I love that. Yeah. Oh, and like the way that they use sound in this too, we already talked about a bit, but like the actual scene with Xander being quiet is extremely quiet. And there's like a bit where they have this extremely loud music and sound effects, and like the Hellmouth demon is screaming and Buffy and all them are fighting, yelling at each other. All this action shit's happening. Smash cuts, hard cuts to utter silence of just Xander and Jack just standing there in the room. It's so well done.
It's bold. It's very bold. I think that's what sells the I like the quiet line. Honestly, it is that cut
because it actually is quiet.
Yeah,
like they're punctuating
it actually
it with
is
that.
quiet. Yeah.
And then the next day, again, we don't even get to see the resolution of the Buffy story because we just cut to like they somehow defeated the demon and stopped the apocalypse. We don't know. They're all beat up and bruised and bandaged. They're like there's this like choir music that's playing in the background that the show never fucking plays.
Yep.
I'll never forget that thing's face. Its real face, I mean.
Yes.
I don't know how you managed. It was the bravest thing I've ever seen.
Stupidest. But the world continues to turn.
No one will ever know how close it came to stopping. Never know what we did.
Guys?
Xander, boy, you're lucky you weren't at school last night. I was crazed.
Well, give me the quiet life.
It's Willow, and again, credit to Allison Hannigan delivering this line. I'll never forget its face. Its true face. It's that last moment of high camp to just deliver on the thesis of this episode.
My favorite part was like Buffy talking to Giles and being like, I didn't know you could do that. It was the bravest thing I've ever seen.
And then he dramatically turns to show you his scar. It's so fun. It's so good.
Yeah.
This episode rules.
It's so good. And then like even punctuating it with like, no one will ever know what we did. They'll never know how close they came, which of course, like that's literally what Xander just went through.
Yep. And that's when Xander shows up. And the thesis goes both ways because they will never know that Xander also saved the world.
Yeah. Cause like, and also again, Xander doesn't have to prove himself to people. He proved himself to himself. I think if you're looking for a really straightforward sort of lesson or message or whatever from this episode, obviously there's a lot of conversations about what masculinity is and like seeing manifestations of toxic masculinity and manifestations of positive masculinity. But I think if you're looking for like a clear message, I think it is just like what he's doing, he's ultimately doing it for himself, not for the benefit of everyone else.
Exactly.
So if he's searching, if he's trying to find a way to he's been searching this whole episode for some element of self-confidence or some way to prove himself to everyone else. Ultimately, he doesn't have to. He proved himself to himself. He did save the world in some way. No one ever has to know. That doesn't make him less of a man.
Exactly. Oh, doesn't it feel good? It feels so good.
Yeah. I think it's a really nice bit. Cordelia comes back one last time. His negative self-talk comes back one last time, and he just has no response to it. He just smiles and walks away.
And he is quiet, and that is what works.
Doesn't have to overthink things.
Yep.
He's just like, I know who I am. I'm good. And just goes off to live his life.
Yeah. I just think that the commentary that this episode makes about who Xander is, what masculinity is, and how Xander changes through his masculinity is an important piece of television to exist, period. A critical episode in season 3 and one of the best episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a winner. It's such a winner. That's great. I nothing else to say. Well, Derek, where can people find other things that you have to say out into the world?
Yeah, you can find me most places at Derek B. Gale. My other podcasts include Walloping Web Snappers, where we do deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made. Screonk, where we're going through Godzilla's filmography. Falling with Style, where we've gone through Pixar films and other animated films. And Lee Carvalho's Potting Challenge, where we go through these Simpsons tie-in video games as well. I also, if you're interested in like other sort of supernatural things that involve demons and stuff, I recently had an article on Kaiju United about the show Akumaizu 3, which is a 70s toku show that, like Buffy, deals with like monsters and demons, but they're like the good guys. So check that out on Kaiju United.
And for me, I'm Dmuma everywhere on social media. That's DMUMA. And I am on a couple other podcasts, one with my friends Marilee and Tyler, where we are talking about horror media of all types. It's February, so we are doing romance horror right now. You can check that out on Fair Coded, wherever you get podcasts. And then this season on Super Mario Moment, I am joining our friend Hamish Steele in covering every Mario TV and film. So the week this Gimmicks episode drops, we are talking about the Amada series, which are anime about Japanese folklore that feature Mario.
Wow.
You should check that one out. But next week, Derek and Doug will be joining for us to talk about the Super Mario Super Show. So the one everybody wants to talk about.
Heck yeah. Gimmicks is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you're looking for other queer media podcasts, check out the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com. I will call out that includes a new show that we just launched called Little Dead Aliens. It's a new Glitterjaw host, Ben, but he's basically looking at Monster of the Week episodes of the X-Files and then coming up with sort of like horror recommendations based on some of the vibes and tropes and things like that from those episodes. So obviously we love X-Files, we love TV. So if you want more X-Files talk, check out Little Dead Aliens at glitterjaw.com.
Yeah, and Derek, you were on one of those episodes. A great listen, talking about Squeeze. What a wild episode.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun.
If you want to support this show by giving us a little tip, you can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/gimmickspod. You can also follow the podcast at GimmicksPod on Blue Sky and Instagram, and email us your questions, feedback, and corrections to gimmicspodcast@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe on all podcast platforms. And until next time, friends, keep being weird.
Is this a penis metaphor?